Chapter 351. Warm blood splattered on the ground and dyed the white snow red. Ning Shu held a wooden stick in her hand and stabbed the wolf that pounced on her to death. On the way to the big cave, Ning Shu and the others encountered a pack of wolves, which surrounded them. Ning Shu's heart sank, but she remained calm and confronted the wolves. The original owner of the body had been killed by wolves. These beasts were cunning and cruel. Many of the female orcs in the team were scared to tears by such a horrible scene. They didn't even have the courage to fight with the wolves with wooden sticks. Ning Shu held the wooden stick tightly in her hand and said calmly, "I'm here. It'll be fine. These beasts want to kill us, but we can bite them to death." Ji, who was standing beside Ning Shu, said, "Yes, I'm not afraid at all." If it weren't for her trembling voice, Ning Shu wouldn't have thought that she was afraid. The wolves loved the children in the female orc's hands and wanted to drag the children away. "Hold the children tight," Ning Shu said coldly and stabbed a wolf that wanted to drag the children away. "If these beasts want to attack us, pick up the wooden stick in your hand. If we don't do anything, we'll be killed by these wolves. Then, our bodies will be eaten by these waves," Ning Shu said in a low voice. The female orcs cried in a low voice. Ning Shu took the lead and stabbed the beasts crazily. The only thought in her mind was to survive. When enemies met on a narrow path, the brave would win. Ning Shu saw a little female orc being dragged away by a wolf from the corner of his eye. Her neck was bitten, and the little female orc stopped crying. She didn't even have time to kill the wolf before her child was killed by the wolf. Ning Shu bit his lips tightly. His heart ached, and he stabbed the wolf to death with the wooden stick. Ning Shu ate a spirit marrow crystal and used all of her strength. She smashed her staff on the wolf's head, causing Lang's head to explode. Ning Shu killed the wolves as if they were watermelons. "Come on, everyone. The wolf will be killed soon," Ji shouted when he saw Ning Shu's bravery. The wolves retreated in the end, dragging the orc's corpse with them. Ning Shu closed his eyes. They didn't try to snatch the beastmen's corpses because the wolves would eat the beastmen's corpses. Once the wolves were full, they wouldn't be in any danger for the time being. It was just that cruel. Ning Shu's arms were weak and trembling. "Let's go." Ning Shu saw that there were fewer orcs in the group, so he turned and walked towards the big cave. Ning Shu saw that some female beastmen couldn't run with little beastmen in their arms, so they carried one in each hand and carried one on their back. Ning Shu knew that he had strained his muscles. It wasn't easy to reach the big cave. Ning Shu thought that such a strong earthquake would cause the big cave to collapse, but fortunately, although it collapsed a little, it didn't completely collapse. Ning Shu settled all the orcs inside and said to Ji, "Take care of these people. I'll go back to the tribe." Ji looked at Ning Shu, whose face was covered in blood, and asked in a trembling voice, "Why are you going back?" "It's too dangerous." "Fuck, take a rest first." Ning Shu shook his head. "I'll go back and find the stone pot." Originally, there was a pool in the cave, but because of the earthquake, the water was turbid and couldn't be drunk at all. Moreover, there was another sun in the sky. She felt that the weather had changed, and the thick snow had begun to melt. There might be a drought later. Ning Shu had to prepare in advance and store enough water. Ning Shu went out of the cave and moved a big stone to block the entrance of the cave, leaving a gap for the people in the cave to breathe. Under the three suns, the whole world was in a state of extreme brightness, so bright that it was dazzling to the eyes. Ning Shu felt that his eyes were stinging after staying outside for a long time, so he quickly went back to the tribe. Ning Shu ran for a while, and his body became hot. He was not afraid of snow, but he was afraid of a drought. Without water, people would die. Ning Shu ran back to the tribe. The whole tribe was very dilapidated, and there was no sign of life. Stepping on the snow, Ning Shu walked around the whole tribe. If he saw a cave that hadn't collapsed, he would go in to see if there was anything that could hold water. He found a lot of stone pots, but there were also some broken clay pots. However, these clay pots were broken in the earthquake and were very fragile. Ning Shu carried the stone pot to the cave one trip at a time. Then, he asked the female orcs in the cave to put clean snow in the stone pots to store more water. Ning Shu had a bad feeling. After the original owner died, he didn't know what happened in this world. After the disaster, there was a great plague, and there was another sun in the sky. It was simply a joke. Ji took the lead to respond to Ning Shu's decision. She held the snow in the stone pot with her hands and pressed it tightly with her hands. The other female orcs also began to get busy, and some younger female orcs were also helping. When the stone pots were filled with snow, the female orcs carried the stone pots into the cave. Ning Shu asked, "Who can make a stone pot? This little water is not enough. I can make it." Yi stood up, but he didn't expect her to survive. "But it needs a special stone. I know where to find this kind of stone." Ning Shu nodded. "Take me there." Yi followed Ning Shu out of the cave. Ning Shu pushed the big stone hard and blocked the entrance of the cave. The stone used to make the stone pot was a kind of stone, but it didn't look like a stone. Ning Shu didn't know what it was. He collected a lot of stones, each of which was the size of a desk, and Ning Shu had to carry them back. Carrying them on his shoulder, Ning Shu felt that his legs were shaking, but he still carried them back with difficulty. Yi began to make the stone pot. Ning Shu had to go to the salt mine again to get some salt back. He needed to feed such a big family. It was not easy to be the president of the Women's Federation. After bringing back a whole basket of salt, Ning Shu started assigning tasks to the female beastmen, which was to look for firewood. It was best if they traveled in groups and didn't wander too far away. There might be danger. There were many beasts in the jungle. When the firewood was back, Ning Shu found that there was no way to make a fire. Did he really have to drill the wood to make a fire? Why was it so difficult to survive in the primitive society? He couldn't figure out why Qianjia was so comfortable. Then Ning Shu began to drill the wood to make a fire, but he didn't make a fire. The female orcs just looked at Ning Shu. Finally, the tiger cub used its claws to scratch the stone, splashing sparks and igniting the withered grass. Ning Shu was speechless. Please forgive her ignorance. She really didn't know that the claws could do this. After lighting the fire and looking at the dancing flames, the haze in everyone's hearts was dispelled. Ning Shu said to Ji, "Go hunting with me." Hunting? Ji was stunned, but she still followed Ning Shu out of the cave. Ning Shu blocked the entrance of the cave with a big stone and asked Ji, "Did you tell them about the bacon?" Ji shook her head. "You should tell them." "I didn't." Chapter 352. Hearing that Ji didn't tell anyone about the bacon, Ning Shu nodded with satisfaction and said to Ji, "Let's leave the bacon for now. Now we have to go hunting." Because of the earthquake, animals were very active. If they only ate bacon, they would run out sooner or later. But we are females. How can we hunt? Ji held a stick in her hand, her face pale. Ning Shu said very calmly, "It's okay. I'll do it. Everything is difficult at the beginning. If we want to survive, we can only rely on ourselves now." Ning Shu found a wild boar that was digging snow. Its long fangs looked very dangerous. Ning Shu felt Ji's body trembling next to her. "Watch how I do it." Ning Shu whispered to Qianjia, then tiptoed to the wild boar. Because he stepped on the snow, there was a sound. The wild boar turned its head and saw Ning Shu. It was not afraid at all. Instead, Ning Shu rushed over and wanted to kill Ning Shu with its fangs. Ning Shu did not hesitate. He held a wooden stick and stabbed the wild boar's head, piercing it directly. Ji looked at Ning Shu in a daze. Under Ning Shu's guidance, Ji successfully killed a rabbit, but it was enough to make Ji happy. Dragging the wild boar back, the female orcs in the cave began to cook the meat. Ning Shu looked at these people and some children. There were males and females among the children. He said, "From today onwards, I am the leader of the tribe. Before the witch died, she asked me to reproduce the tribe. We are now a whole. If we want to survive, we must be united. Fuck, how can we live without males?" Ning Shu, a female orc, asked, "Won't the males come back to us?" Ning Shu sneered in his heart. On the surface, he said calmly, "Then we have to live and wait for the males to come to us. From tomorrow onwards, we will hunt by ourselves and live until the male orcs come to us." Ning Shu saw that the wild boar meat in the stone pot was cooked and said, "Give some to the child first, and then we'll eat." Ning Shu ate a bowl of meat soup and then sat down to adjust her breathing. She had used too much strength before, and her body could no longer bear it. He mobilized the chi in his dantian to heal the wounds on his muscles. The female orcs hugged their children and hugged each other, spending the night in fear. During this time, the aftershocks continued, and the world was shaking. Everyone hugged each other, and some of the more timid orcs cried silently. The next day, Ning Shu brought some female beastmen out to hunt. This was a cruel evolution. If you wanted to live, you had to bleed. Ning Shu had told them a lot of things to take note of, but he still saw a female orc being killed by her prey in a daze. The cruel and bloody scene made the other female beastmen even more afraid. They even started crying. Ning Shu suddenly did not know if this was the right thing to do. Females who had been living under the protection of males suddenly had to face such a bloody thing. Was it right or not? The first day of hunting was a failure. Ning Shu went to hunt alone, and only then did they have food for the day. Ning Shu was not in a good mood. When he returned to the cave, he did not say a word, and the female orcs did not dare to speak. When the meat was cooked, Ji put the meat in a stone bowl and gave it to Ning Shu. Ji said, "Damn, don't be angry." "I'm not angry. I just think that we will all die if we continue like this." Ning Shu looked at Ji and said, "The weather is hot. It should be winter, but there is another fireball in the sky, and the snow is beginning to melt. If the fireball keeps shining like this, there will be no water. I'm worried about how we can survive." Ning Shu sighed. Yi said, "I will try to make more stone pots and store more water before the snow melts." Ning Shu nodded and suddenly asked Yi, "Are you sad?" In fact, the earthquake had saved her life. Xian Jia was determined to kill her, and Ning Shu's 2 fists could not fight against 4 hands. He might not be able to save her. Yi smiled to Ning Shu, showing her big yellow teeth, and said, "I want to live now. I don't believe that the males will come back to pick us up." Phew, there was finally someone who understood. If he really cared, he should have taken her away. The other orcs all told Ning Shu that they would learn to hunt seriously. Ning Shu just sighed in his heart. It was easy to say, but it was not so easy to do. It was good enough that they were not chased by the prey. The weather was getting hotter and hotter. The thick snow was about to melt, and the snow water invaded the ground, and tender grass grew. Everything seemed to be thriving. It would be great if there were not 3 suns in the sky. When Ning Shu brought the female orcs to hunt, they would look for animals that were relatively docile. When they encountered dangerous animals, they would take a detour. However, with the terrible cooperation of a group of female orcs, they could kill an animal that looked like a water buffalo. They also had to rely on Ning Shu to use vines to pull the prey that wanted to run away. Every time they went out to hunt, Ning Shu would bring the male orcs and let them learn how to hunt. He would let them pounce on small rabbits to sharpen their teeth and claws. After a period of time, the number of female orcs decreased. Some died in the process of hunting. Some were injured and could only do small things in the cave. Ning Shu looked at the marks he made in the cave. It had been almost a month since the earthquake, and there were already 25 scratches on it. However, these female orcs were different from before. Previously, they were still hoping that the male orcs would come back to find them. However, after such a long time, they did not come to find them. The male orcs had wings, so it would not take long for them to come back. Without hope, the female orcs were now desperately trying to survive. Previously, their hands were shaking when they held wooden sticks, but now, they could quickly attack their prey. Ning Shu knew that the winged tigers had now left the primitive world and arrived at a fertile plain. Qian Jia would build her own kingdom here. The plains were suitable for farming, so the orcs who had seeds naturally started farming. Ning Shu sneered. "You've abandoned so many female beast men. You can just wait to be exterminated. Go get gay." Perhaps the matriarchal era had come. A female could have many males in order to carry on the family line. However, females were weak, and giving birth was very dangerous for weak females. Even the mother and child could not be protected. It was impossible for them to keep giving birth. This was a dangerous primitive society. There were dangers everywhere. When these orcs' transformation ability deteriorated, they could only wait for death. However, what Ning Shu was worried about happened. When Ning Shu made the 60th mark, the weather had already become very hot. There were 3 suns in the sky, and the water level in the river was clearly dropping. Moreover, the grass on the ground was roasted by the sun. Everything was a sign that the following days would be even worse. Chapter 353. The weather was incomparably hot. As long as one stayed outside for a long time, their skin would be scorched by the sun. Ning Shu and the female orc spent most of their time in the cave. With so many people crammed in the cave, no matter how cool the cave was, there was still a warm current that made it hard for them to breathe. The water in the pool in the cave was also gradually decreasing. More and more water was being collected. The entire cave was filled with stone pots filled with water. Although there was so much water, Ning Shu was still worried. He didn't know how long the drought would last. In the evening, when it was cooler, Ning Shu took the female beastmen out to hunt. He knew that the current situation wasn't good. When the female beastmen killed their prey, they would collect the blood of their prey and put it in a stone bowl. Each of them would drink a mouthful to quench their thirst. Ning Shu wouldn't drink the blood no matter what. The smell made him want to vomit. But what made Ning Shu happy was that these female beastmen were now used to this kind of life. Perhaps it would be better to survive this dry season. Because of the drought, the animals couldn't find water and began to die. Some scavengers began to tear apart the smelly corpses that were covered in flies. A large number of prey died, and they wouldn't be able to hunt in the future. What awaited them was death. Ning Shu was now glad that he had prepared so much cured meat. If everyone ate less, they might be able to survive for a while. He didn't know how Qian Jia and the others were doing. The plains were very far from here, but with Qian Jia's luck, even if it was a drought, she would be able to find a spring and dig out water. Others had a difficult life, but it wasn't a problem for Qian Jia. There was no way to compare people. If there was no heaven's favor, then they had to pamper themselves. They had to work hard and tenaciously live. The cooked food was getting less and less. Everyone was only given a little. It was enough to maintain their body's condition. The weather was getting hotter. Ning Shu roughly estimated that it was about 50 degrees Celsius. His feet hurt from the heat. Ning Shu wiped the sweat on his head. It was so hot that he wanted to stick out his tongue to cool down. However, as the chief of the tribe, how could Ning Shu do such a thing in front of so many people? There were 100 marks on the stone wall. It had been 3 months, but no one knew when the temperature would drop. Some of the female orcs and little orcs in the cave were already suffering from diarrhea and dehydration. Ning Shu gave these sick orcs some prunella grass to boil water, hoping that it would be useful. Right now, everyone was fighting against the heavens. They were just waiting to see how long they could endure. Ning Shu even suspected that the so-called god wanted to exterminate all life in this world. With such a godly power, it was easy to take away a son. He probably didn't even remember this place. Everyone in this world was nothing but ants to him. Fuck, a female orc is dying, Ji walked over and told Ning Shu. Ning Shu went over to take a look. This female beast man was very thin and looked old. Her body was too weak. Under such conditions, the first ones to die were the children and the elderly. Chief, you don't need to give me the medicine. I won't live for long. Leave these herbs for the other orcs. The female orc lying on the ground said to Ning Shu. Her eyes were yellow and there was white saliva at the corner of her mouth. It seemed that she wouldn't live for long. Ning Shu scooped some water from a stone bowl for her to drink. After drinking the water, the female orc's complexion became much better, but she still died at night. Ning Shu sighed in his heart. He asked people to move the body out of the cave and dug a hole to bury the dead orc. Looking at these old, weak, sick and disabled people, Ning Shu doubted whether he could complete his task. He just endured it like this. To Ning Shu's relief, the little male orcs in the tribe were growing up and could cooperate to catch some prey. With these little male orcs, the tribe could continue. This team had completely broken away from the Winged Tiger clan and become a new tribe. Every new thing brought with it pain and joy. The future of the tribe depended on these little orcs. Every time Ning Shu went hunting, he would bring the little female orcs with him. To live in this cruel world, one must have skills and learn to hunt on their own. Since they couldn't transform, they had to use tools. There was no animal that couldn't be killed. Ning Shu really didn't want these little female orcs to follow the path of their predecessors. If they were abandoned by the male orcs, they could only wait for death. There was nothing that couldn't be done. It just depended on whether or not they were willing to do it. Ning Shu taught these female orcs how to hunt and use tools. It was just that the female orcs were weak and didn't have good physiques. Ning Shu wanted to teach these female orcs the ultimate martial arts. Even if they couldn't cultivate Qi Jin, they could at least protect themselves. 2333, I want to redeem the ultimate martial arts. How many points do I need? When she first got the secret book, she sold it to the system. The system only gave her 100 points. 2333 said calmly, 1,000 points. Ning Shu thought, fuck you. When I sold it to the system, it gave me 100 points. Now I want to buy it back, and it actually costs 1,000 points. Why don't you just rob me? Ning Shu almost jumped up. Fuck, the thing that originally belonged to her was sold to her for 900 points. She was young and ignorant. If she had known, she wouldn't have exchanged it with the system. Ning Shu held her breath and said, exchange. As long as this thing was hers, she had the right to use it. She could teach it to whoever she wanted. Sure enough, she still had to hold on to her own things. Ning Shu called the female orcs in front of her and taught them the ultimate martial arts. She didn't expect them to cultivate anything. She only hoped that the later generations would have better genes. Sure enough, these female orcs were all confused. They couldn't understand such a profound thing. Ning Shu only said that it was a gift from God to the tribe. Every female orc had to cultivate it. Ning Shu didn't plan to give it to the male orcs. They already had the powerful transformation ability. If they still wanted to cultivate the ultimate martial arts, they would be like the three suns in the sky. Ning Shu's original intention was to let the female orcs be stronger and not be restrained by the male orcs. Otherwise, they would die without the male orcs. When the female orcs heard that it was a gift from God, although they were confused, they still worked hard to cultivate it, although they didn't know what they were doing. Ning Shu gave the incantation to Ji and asked her to memorize it. He wanted to pass it down in the future. Ji couldn't understand these things, so she had to memorize them. Ning Shu began to think about the inheritance of the shaman. He gave the god stone to the female orcs to see if they could communicate with the god stone and become shamans. Existence was reasonable. This world was created by God, so it should have faith in God. Ning Shu was looking forward to when he could have such power. Chapter 354. Ning Shu had forgotten one thing, which was that practicing martial arts would increase one's appetite. Therefore, when Ning Shu realized what was going on, several little female orcs were looking at Ning Shu eagerly. Ning Shu was speechless. However, Ning Shu was very happy. At least a few orcs were practicing martial arts, and they were all little female orcs. Everything in the tribe was developing in a good direction. Ning Shu went hunting under the strong sun. The whole world was filled with a rotten smell, and there were rotten animal remains everywhere. After running for a long time, Ning Shu finally found a bison, which was rolling in a puddle full of muddy water. Ning Shu carried a wooden stick and went to the bison. This water buffalo should be enough to eat for 2 days. Ning Shu sighed deeply in her heart. She killed the bison and was about to lift it up when something suddenly jumped on her shoulder, grabbed her hair, and squeaked. Ning Shu turned her head and saw a little gray ball. She almost twisted her waist. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. This was an illusion, this was an illusion. How could she see this little thing in this world? Could it be this little thing's ancestor? Squeak, squeak, squeak. The little gray ball squeaked and looked at Ning Shu with its black bean-like eyes. Its nose twitched, and tears came out. It seemed to be very thirsty, and then it licked the tears into its mouth. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu carried the water buffalo back to the cave. As soon as they arrived, the little gray ball jumped into the stone pot and drank water. Ji looked at the little gray ball. Ning Shu asked, "What is this?" "I don't know." Ning Shu rolled her eyes. She had met such a mouse-like thing in the world of the princess. She had given this little gray ball to Li Wen, but why was this little thing here? Ning Shu could feel that this little thing should know her. The little thing drank all the water in the stone pot and then jumped onto Ning Shu's shoulder. It shrieked and grabbed Ning Shu's hair. Ning Shu squeaked. Ning Shu was speechless. The little gray ball dropped its tears and licked them into its mouth. Then it ran out of the cave. Ning Shu held the wooden stick in his hand and chased after the gray ball. In the end, he found a person lying in a low thicket of thorns. The little gray ball squeaked at the man lying on the ground. Ning Shu first saw a pair of dusty black shoes embroidered with cloud patterns, then a bright yellow dragon robe, and then a disheveled face. Ning Shu wiped his face and squatted down to remove the hair from his face. Sure enough, it was Li Wen. His skin was already tanned by the sun, and his lips were so dry that they were curling. Damn it, how did he come to this world? Ning Shu picked him up horizontally and carried him back to the cave like a princess. Ji was speechless. Ning Shu threw Li Wen on the withered grass, scooped some water and poured it into his mouth. Li Wen, who was unconscious, drank the water instinctively. The little gray ball stared at Li Wen. Ning Shu took off his clothes, leaving only his underwear, revealing Li Wen's muscular body. Ning Shu poured some water on him. Ji looked at Li Wen in surprise, but her hand touched Li Wen's clothes. She said to Ning Shu in surprise, "Damn, look at this animal skin. It's so comfortable. There's something on it." "What is it?" Ning Shu was speechless. Every once in a while, Ning Shu would give Li Wen some water. The little gray ball seemed to know that it was safe and curled up into a ball and fell asleep on Li Wen's body. It was a strange feeling to meet an old friend in such a world. How did Li Wen come here? Li Wen woke up a day later. When he opened his eyes, he saw a magnified ugly face. He almost fainted again. Miss. Miss. Li Wen called the ugly person in front of him. He had never seen such an ugly person. He looked around and saw that he was in a big hole. There were some ugly people around him, and there were even 1 or 2 little tigers biting his shoes. Ning Shu looked at Li Wen. In an unfamiliar environment, Li Wen was scared at first, but then he calmed down. I want to eat something. Can you give me something to eat? Li Wen asked Ning Shu. Ning Shu nodded and gave Li Wen a bowl of meat. Li Wen had been hungry for a long time since he came to this world. He just boiled it with water and added salt. The meat was very fishy, but Li Wen ate it very happily. May I ask what this place is? Li Wen asked Ning Shu. Ning Shu didn't say anything and just looked at Li Wen. How the hell did you come here? Can't you understand what I'm saying? Li Wen asked again. Ning Shu said, Who are you? How did you come here? I came here because of this little thing. Li Wen reached out and touched the little gray ball. Ning Shu. Dumbfounded. Ning Shu asked 2333, What's wrong with this person? 2333 thought for a moment and said, There are some mysterious things in the world. This thing should be a silver cloud mink. It lives in space and its main food is some destroyed plane fragments. So, it has the ability to freely travel between planes. Ning Shu, 0, Ning Shu grabbed the little gray ball and looked at it. It's so awesome. Ning Shu pulled open the little gray ball's hind legs. Yes, it has a male dick. The little gray ball opened its eyes and kicked Ning Shu's face and jumped onto Li Wen. Such an awesome thing didn't like her. She was speechless. She was the one who met this little thing first. Li Wen stayed in a cave, but he felt that his worldview was being challenged everywhere. 3 suns, 10 moons, and even a child had turned into a winged tiger in an instant. Monster. Also, he couldn't understand what others were saying. He could only communicate with one person, the leader of the tribe. Li Wen wiped his face. What the hell was this place? What made Li Wen depressed was that he couldn't do anything here. He couldn't hunt. He was the emperor, but he was so useless. His ability to stabilize the country was useless here. Every day, he had to wait for a bowl of meat. This made Li Wen feel very ashamed. Ning Shu looked at Li Wen's bitter face and lit a candle for Li Wen. If he came here and couldn't go back, what would he do? Seeing the little gray ball's unreliable appearance, Ning Shu felt that Li Wen would be in charge in the future. What Ning Shu didn't expect was that Li Wen wanted to go hunting with the team. Ning Shu just looked at Li Wen with contempt. It was okay to command others, but to go hunting himself? What a joke. Li Wen was the emperor, and he practiced martial arts to strengthen his body. He felt that it was useful to go hunting occasionally. Ning Shu didn't stop him and let him go. When he really fought with these prey, Li Wen felt that these animals were fierce. Every meal was a struggle for life. Now, Li Wen wanted to go home. He really wanted to go home. Chapter 355. The weather was getting hotter and hotter, and the sunlight was getting more and more intense. The leaves were already crispy and would crumble with a pinch. The grass on the ground had withered, revealing the yellow sand on the ground. It felt like there was no green in the entire world. Ning Shu no longer dared to bring the team out to hunt, because if they stayed outside for another 10 minutes, they might get dehydrated and heatstroke. Their skin would be directly sunburned. Everyone huddled in the cave, and there was not a single drop of water in the cave. It was as if all the water in the world had evaporated, and there was not even a drop of dew in the morning. They were even more frugal now. Ning Shu had already drawn 120 marks on the wall. It had been 4 months of drought, but there was still no sign of rain. Ning Shu looked at the water in the stone pot, not knowing how long they could last. If it still did not rain, they would really be waiting for death. The previously handsome, dignified, and noble Li Wen had no water to wash up with now. His face was covered in black dust, but as he sat on the ground and leaned against the stone wall, his aura did not let others look down on him. Ning Shu gave the little gray ball a little bit of spirit marrow crystal powder. After eating it, the little gray ball fell into a deep sleep, and Li Wen hugged it. Li Wen's face was calm, but his heart was going crazy. He really wanted to shake this little thing awake. If it fell asleep, how was he going to go back? Where did this little thing bring her to? Oh my God! There was no more prey in the forest, and many animals had died of thirst. Ning Shu decided to take out the bacon buried under his feet. The tribe was filled with a sense of despair, but when they saw Ning Shu dig out the bacon, everyone's eyes lit up. Even Li Wen looked at Ning Shu with admiration. Obviously, he felt that Ning Shu was prepared. I feel like you're very familiar. Li Wen raised his eyebrows and asked Ning Shu. Ning Shu glanced at him very elegantly. In the past, you were the emperor, and I had to curry favor with you everywhere. Now, I'm the master here. I don't know you. Li Wen, he felt that this person looked down on him. Because the temperature was too high, female orcs with weak physiques kept dying in the tribe, but the ones who survived were the ones with better physiques. What made Ning Shu satisfied was that the female beastman didn't die, and the male beastman also didn't die under Ning Shu's protection. After this difficult time, the entire tribe would be able to continue. Li Wen saw Ning Shu looking at the corpses of his clansmen indifferently and asked, "Aren't you sad? Are they your clansmen?" When Ning Shu heard this, he almost spat out his saliva. As the person who killed all of his brothers to ascend the throne, he actually had the face to ask him this question. Can you be any more hypocritical? Ning Shu didn't say anything. There were already 150 marks on the wall. It had already been 5 months. The trees had already died under the scorching sun. There was no more water in the cave. There were only 2 stone pots of water left. Ning Shu wiped his face. His heart was filled with despair. In front of the heavens and earth, everyone was humble and weak. What was going on with the heavens and earth? Ning Shu said, "Fuck, can you pray to God? Did God give up on us?" Ning Shu, how should she pray? Pray your ass. She didn't even know who God was. Under Xi's gaze, Ning Shu held the stone of 10,000 worlds and mumbled nonsense. Li Wen raised his eyebrows and looked at Ning Shu. Obviously, he didn't believe in God. Ning Shu didn't know if it was an illusion, but he felt that the stone of 10,000 worlds in his hand was a little hot, and it was getting hotter and hotter. Suddenly, it flew out of his palm and into the sky. Then, a huge black hand appeared in the sky and scooped up the stone of 10,000 worlds. What the fuck? Ning Shu almost peed his pants. In all honesty, he was just touching the stone of 10,000 worlds. He didn't have any intention of taking the stone of 10,000 worlds. The huge black hand paused in the sky and directly crushed 2 suns before disappearing. Ning Shu, what was that? Li Wen's voice was trembling. Li Wen, who didn't change his expression even when Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, was stunned at this moment. Ning Shu swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Oh my God, his heart was trembling. That's our God. Ning Shu puffed out his chest and said. Oh, oh, oh. All the orcs cheered. With 2 suns gone, the sky became much darker and wasn't as dazzling as before. Ning Shu clutched his chest. He was so scared that he had a heart attack. Li Wen's pupils trembled. Obviously, he was shocked by the huge power of the huge black hand. The ant suddenly realized that there was something even more powerful in this world. With Li Wen's mindset, he wanted to pursue this power. He thought that he was lucky to have this little thing in his arms. He didn't expect to see such power. Li Wen was an emperor. He never believed in such supernatural things. However, he saw such a powerful power with his own eyes. Because there were 2 less suns in the sky, the world suddenly became cooler. It was so hot before, but why did it suddenly become cold? It even felt a little cold. It was easy for the cold and hot clouds to accumulate. After 2 days, it finally rained. After nearly half a year, it finally rained. The orcs jumped and cheered in the heavy rain. They opened their mouths to catch the rainwater. The female orcs took out the stone pot to collect the rainwater. Ning Shu raised his head and let the bean-sized raindrops hit his face. It was a little painful and itchy, but there was an indescribable joy in his heart. At the same time, he was extremely shocked. The strong could control the fate of others. When would he be strong enough to control his own fate and not let his fate be controlled by others? After the rain, the grass grew again. Some withered books sprouted again. The whole world was filled with a fresh smell. No matter who that god was, Ning Shu was grateful to him. His casual actions saved many lives and allowed her to not fail her mission. Amitabha. A good person would live a peaceful life. One day, she would also become a powerful existence. Before that, she had to live and work hard to live. Ning Shu saw that Li Wen had been silent. His eyes were very bright, and there was a burning heat in them. The current Li Wen wasn't the same as the previous Li Wen. If the previous Li Wen defined himself as an emperor, then the current Li Wen didn't have such a feeling. He seemed to have a new goal. He felt that his entire person was sublimated. Your god seems to be very powerful. Li Wen suddenly said, does such a person really exist in the world? Ning Shu nodded. God is omnipotent. God created this world. He is unbelievably powerful. After eating the spirit marrow crystal powder, the little gray ball woke up. It first jumped onto Ning Shu's shoulder. Ning Shu squeaked twice and then jumped back into Li Wen's arms. Ning Shu wanted to roll his eyes. He had given this guy such a good thing, but it was still indifferent to him. This little thing was only compatible with Li Wen. Chapter 356. Li Wen was about to leave. The day after the little gray ball woke up, she prepared to leave. Ning Shu really wanted to ask, can you return to the Great Yong Imperial Palace? Could it be that the little gray ball could pinpoint the location of Transmigration? Li Wen suddenly said to Ning Shu, the place I grew up in is completely different from here. This is for you. Li Wen pulled Ning Shu and placed a jade pendant with an azure dragon on it in Ning Shu's hand. Thank you for saving me. Ning Shu looked at the jade pendant and grinned. No need. You keep this kind of thing. It seems that this thing can't be eaten or drunk. I don't want it. Li Wen smiled indifferently. That's true. I didn't think it through. Perhaps I will come and see you in the future. Ning Shu only nodded and didn't say anything. Meeting her this time was already considered lucky. Ning Shu didn't think that they would meet again in the future. Li Wen hugged the little gray ball. The little gray ball squeaked twice to Ning Shu, and then its fur quickly turned silver white. Its entire body was enveloped in an extremely complex halo. This halo enveloped Li Wen. Soon after, Li Wen's body disappeared into thin air. Ning Shu exhaled. Looking at the lush green forest, he felt great. It was good to be alive. Only by being alive could one feel the beauty of life. Even if life was difficult, one could feel the beauty of life. Ning Shu traveled through countless plains in order to survive and extend her life. She met many people in her life. The entire tribe was in order. There was no need for Ning Shu to command. Everyone knew what to do. Everything was developing in a good direction. She could be considered to have fulfilled the original owner's wish. Although some female beast men died for various reasons, those who survived were braver and stronger. Ning Shu stretched. Suddenly, he wanted to go and see Qian Jia and their partners. In fact, Ning Shu wanted to know how the winged tigers who abandoned their females were doing. It was nothing more than wanting to see them regret. However, he had already stayed in this world for a long time, and it would not be long before he left this world. Ning Shu called Ji over and asked, "If the male orcs come back to us, will we still go back with them?" Ji shook his head. "It's been so long. The male orcs must think that we're all dead and won't come back for us." Ning Shu nodded. She laid down on the dried grass and prepared to take a nap. Ever since the earthquake, her nerves had been tense. Ji covered Ning Shu with a piece of animal skin. She stared at Ning Shu, whose eyes were closed, and said, "Even if they come back to us now, we won't go with them. We're no longer the same females as before." Ning Shu didn't open his eyes, but the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Love oneself, then love others. 2333, do you know anything about Qian Jia? Ning Shu asked in his mind. 2333 replied, "Just like in the storyline, Qian Jia built her own kingdom and became the queen." Ning Shu was speechless. "Fuck, how did you build a palace? I can't even drill wood to start a fire. How did you build such a big city? This is already beyond the horizon." And then? Ning Shu curled his lips and asked. 2333 said, "Although Qian Jia has established laws, it's useless. The orcs live in the forest and don't like this kind of life. Also, the crops can't satisfy the orcs at all, and there are no beasts on the plains, so there's no way to hunt. This rough city is very chaotic." Ning Shu was speechless. So, if he took a big step, he would get in trouble. The orcs living on the plains also had to face the threat from the sky. There were no trees on the plains, and the giant birds in the sky listed the orcs on their menu. More importantly, there were fewer and fewer female beast men. Many tribes were crowded here. Food was in high demand, and female beast men were also in high demand. Food in exchange for females, females in exchange for food. It was a mess. Moreover, Qian Jia, who lost her child, got pregnant again. However, because of the previous miscarriage, she was frozen in the snow for a while, so her body was not very good. Coupled with the earthquake and migration, she was very tired and weak. It wasn't easy to give birth to a child. It was indeed a weak one, and it died not long after. Qian Jia had many partners. Perhaps these partners wanted Qian Jia to forget the pain of losing her child out of kindness. They wanted Qian Jia to get pregnant, but Qian Jia's body was not well, and she got pregnant again. The harm to her was a kind of harm. In the primitive society, there was no such thing as a confinement period. Qian Jia got pregnant again within 2 months of the miscarriage. Qian Jia was still a university student before, so she didn't know this at all. She didn't even know that she was ruining her own body. Coupled with the previous miscarriage and the early death of the child, Qian Jia was very nervous when she was pregnant, which was not good for her body. The child she gave birth to was a child with a snake's body and a human's head. This deformed child should be from the Black Snake tribe. They weren't of the same tribe, so genetic problems were easy to occur. Qian Jia couldn't take it anymore, and her emotions were on the verge of collapse. She felt that this was a punishment from the heavens for her, and all of this punishment was on her child. Even her mental state was a little abnormal. Although many died young, there were still children who survived. Qian Jia now felt like a mother bee. Everyone hoped that Qian Jia would give birth to more females, because there were fewer and fewer females now. The extinction of the tribe was right in front of them. Moreover, females were weak. Without the strong strength of males, they couldn't bear the power of male beast men. Besides, it was impossible for a female beastman to only have one male beastman. Xian Jia opened the door to a new world for the female beastmen. In short, everyone fell into a kind of anxious and indulgent atmosphere. If they didn't make any changes, the extinction of the tribe might really happen. Ning Shu, knowing that you're not living well, I'm much happier in my heart. The beastmen were dazzled by the things that Xian Jia brought, and even gave up their own principles of survival. If a tribe without principles died, then so be it. They deserved it. Ding, quest completed. Leaving the quest world. 2333's voice sounded, and then Ning Shu's head buzzed. When he opened his eyes, he was already in the system space. Ning Shu looked at the sofa, the carpet, the bookcase, and the big bed. After staying in a primitive society for so long, seeing these things again, he felt like he was in heaven. Ning Shu ignored it and threw himself on the soft bed. It couldn't be more comfortable. The quilt was still fragrant, and there was no smell of dampness. There were no insects on it. Lying on the bed, Ning Shu fell asleep. When he woke up, he felt refreshed and began to meditate. After his soul was filled, Ning Shu asked 2333, System, do you know who the god of that world is? Are you kidding? How would I know? 2333 sneered, how would I know about such an existence? Fortunately, he didn't kill us. Ning Shu, it sounded so sad, and he still had to thank the god for not killing him. Chapter 357. Ning Shu didn't want to think about God anymore. She quickly threw it to the back of her mind. That kind of person was just out of reach. It was useless to think about it. Let's take a look at this times points. Ning Shu's status panel appeared in front of him. Number, 23333 Name, Ning Shu, Beginner Quest Taker, Age, 27 Experience, 100,000 70,000 Soul, 200 HP, 60 Wisdom, 85 Charm, 3 Luck, 34 Spirit, 120 Strength, 30 Faith, 1 Aptitude, 26 Merit, 15-20 Skills, 5th Ring Spear Technique, Trash Fighting Technique, Peerless Martial Arts Rookie. Honorary Title, Goddess of War, Selfless Ancestor Aura, Mother of the World, Queen's Blessing, Model Worker, Qin Shi's Blessing, Leader Aura, Grass's Blessing, Grass's Wish. 1. I don't want to die. 2. I want to save the female beast men who were also abandoned. Quest completion, 100. Obtained 25 attribute points. Ning Shu looked at the rich rewards and felt relieved. This time, he obtained 70,000 experience, 20 merit points, the title of Selfless Ancestor, the Leader Aura, and 25 attribute points. Selfless Ancestor. This group of beast men thought of her as their ancestor and worshipped her in the future. Why did she feel guilty? She wasn't selfless at all. She just wanted to complete the quest. What's with the faith? Ning Shu asked 2333. When creatures believe in you, it will produce faith. 2333 replied. Looking at the lonely bit of faith power, Ning Shu couldn't help but wonder who had contributed it. Primitive people were honest. They gave her so many things. Her hardships in primitive society were not in vain. She had to take care of a large group of female beast men, take care of small beast men, and worry about the future development of the tribe. She believed that when she returned, she would see a lively tribe. However, this time, Ning Shu once again saw the importance of strength. Without strength, she couldn't hunt, she couldn't store so much bacon, she couldn't defend against wild beasts when the earthquake came, and she couldn't hunt after that. Yes, things that can be resolved with force should be resolved with force first. Things that cannot be resolved with force should be resolved with wisdom. In short, martial strength was very important. Ning Shu generously added 15 points of her attribute points to martial strength, life points, and luck points. Serial number, 23333 Name, Ning Shu, beginner mission taker, age, 27 EXP, 100,000 70,000 soul value, 200 HP, 605 wisdom, 85 charm, 3 luck, 345 spiritual power, 120 combat power, 3,015 faith, 1 aptitude, 26 merit, 35 skills, 5th ring spear technique, trash fighting technique, peerless martial arts novice. Honorary title, Goddess of War, Selfless Ancestor Aura, Mother of the World, Queen's Blessing, Model Worker, Chen Shi's Blessing, Leader Aura, Grass Blessing. After allocating the attribute points, Ning Shu opened the exchange shop and exchanged for fasting pills, water, and some basic medicine. She also exchanged for some antidote pills. These were all necessities for survival. Even if they were not needed in the mission, Ning Shu had to prepare them in advance. After the exchange, Ning Shu casually browsed the shop and saw that there were some things that could only be exchanged with faith, which cost tens of thousands of faith. Ning Shu saw that she had 1 point of faith power and silently closed the exchange store. This store was constantly reminding her that she was a poor person. Ning Shu was not in a hurry to enter the mission. Instead, she took out a book from the bookshelf and sat on the sofa to read. Of course, with Ning Shu's IQ, she could not read anything profound. It was not bad to read something that could increase her wisdom. Instead of reading these useless books, you might as well add your attribute points to your wisdom. 2333 could not help but say. Ning Shu suddenly said, "Oh, I forgot. Next time, I'll add 1 point to my wisdom." Can something like wisdom really be added? Why do you believe that force points can be added up but not wisdom points? 2333 asked. Ning Shu said, "Wisdom is fixed. Can I increase it by adding points to my attribute points?" 2333. You really should add some points to wisdom. With a higher wisdom value, you can quickly think of solutions when doing quests and complete them faster. 2333 was very dissatisfied with Ning Shu for always adding attribute points to her martial strength. Did she only see the benefits of martial strength and did not see the other benefits? A real wise person is a person who does not miss a single detail. 2333 said, "This kind of person does not need great strength and will never get into trouble." Ning Shu said, "Oh, how tiring would that be? Just listening to it was enough to kill a lot of brain cells." 2333, don't you get tired of waving your sword around all day? 2333 felt that it was his duty to guide this quest taker on the right path. How strong could a person be? If they encountered something they could not solve, they would need to rely on external help. This was the time to test a person's intelligence. Some people could easily solve the problem, but some people could not. If you only had martial strength but no brains, you would not go far. It's not tiring for me to fight. In the future, I will learn to use my brain. Use my brain. Ning Shu nodded and said. Ning Shu always felt that wisdom was something that could be accumulated slowly. The more knowledge one had, the higher one's wisdom would naturally be. Closing the book, Ning Shu cultivated for a while. When her soul was much fuller, she said to 2333, "Let's enter the mission." Ning Shu's brain went blank for a moment. Then, she heard all kinds of mechanical instructions. Strings of codes flashed in front of her eyes, mixed with the sound of electricity. When Ning Shu heard the sound of electricity, she felt goosebumps all over her body. When she opened her eyes, she found herself in front of a valley. She was sitting on the ground, holding her ankle. Her ankle was slightly red and swollen, but Ning Shu did not feel any pain. Ning Shu touched her body from head to toe. She was wearing an elegant ancient costume and her hair was tied up with a hair band. Touching this body, Ning Shu felt that she really existed, but there was no heartbeat. This body also did not have the ability to breathe. Ning Shu could not help but take a few deep breaths. Breathing was no different from not breathing at all. She could not feel cold, heat, or pain. Other than her consciousness, there was nothing. What did she become this time? She looked around. This was a beautiful place. There was a river and trees. Every blade of grass and tree was very realistic. However, there was no sign of human habitation. A bird flew in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu caught the bird, but the bird also had no breath. Chapter 358. For such a strange phenomenon, Ning Shu first chose to receive the plot. This was a holographic MMORPG world. The so-called holographic MMORPG was a very high-end gaming method. Through the gaming helmet or gaming chamber, the brain waves were reflected into the system. The simulation was very high, and it made the players feel as if they were in the real world. Ning Shu guessed that the technology outside the game world was very advanced. At least Ning Shu had never seen such high-end technology. And this body was an NPC. It should have been controlled by the system's intelligence, but under a coincidence, it had its own consciousness. The so-called NPC was a game character that was not controlled by the player. It was used to promote the development of the game story. For example, when the player entered a shop, the shop owner was an NPC. For example, Ning Shu, this NPC, sprained her foot and waited for the player to come and save the damsel in distress. She let the player go to the valley to pick herbs and defeat the beasts guarding the herbs. To put it bluntly, she let the player kill monsters, drop equipment, and gain experience. The original owner's consciousness was like a newborn baby. She did not understand anything. Fortunately, there was the main system's control, so she knew what to do. But compared to other NPCs, the original owner had emotions and felt lonely. The game entered the last review. The original owner's abnormality was not discovered. When the players continued to enter the whole world, the game became popular. The male lead of this world was a person with the ID following Cool Breeze. He was the first person to enter the game and was also the first person the original owner met. This, following Cool Breeze, was the first person to come to the original owner. The original owner was very surprised to see this person. According to the game's plot, she let, following Cool Breeze, enter the valley to find herbs. The original owner was very curious about people. In order to be able to talk more with this person, she told, following Cool Breeze, in detail what the herbs looked like, what the boss's weakness was, how its defense was, and so on. Following Cool Breeze remembered these, defeated the boss, got the herbs, and healed the original owner's foot. When, following Cool Breeze, was about to leave, the original owner was very reluctant. She wanted, following Cool Breeze, to come and play with her in the future. Following the Breeze felt that this NPC was really special. Out of a desire to verify, every time, following the Breeze, wanted to farm monsters, he would look for the original owner. The original owner would tell, following the Breeze, about the boss's HP, attack, defense, and how to farm monsters. Every time I tested it, the level of, flowing with the Breeze, quickly increased, and I obtained a lot of top-quality equipment. These equipment were all money. Following the Breeze felt that this NPC should be a loophole in the system. Of course, following the Breeze did not treat this NPC as a person at all. He just wanted to use this loophole in the system to clear more instance dungeons and get more equipment. Under the guidance of the original owner, following the Breeze, had played many hidden dungeons. These dungeons were not easy to be discovered by players, but, following the Breeze, had obtained great benefits from these dungeons. Sui Qingfeng kept the top-tier equipment for himself and sold the equipment that he did not need. This allowed Sui Qingfeng to gain a lot of wealth. Blown by the Wind also gradually became a godly player and established a guild. In the entire server, he stood at the top of the pyramid. Blown by the Breeze knew that some of his things were obtained by relying on the original owner, this NPC. He also felt that this NPC was a little clingy, so he just coaxed her and asked the original owner not to tell these things to others. Of course, the original owner nodded and agreed. She developed a kind of dependence on, blown by the breeze. Perhaps it was also mixed with love. After that, the original owner met so many players, but she could not forget, blown by the breeze. Later, the original owner revealed more and more things. The abnormalities in the data were finally scanned by the game control system. The game staff finally erased the original owner's code and erased her as an NPC. Without this NPC, blown by the breeze, could only sigh. At the same time, he also let out a sigh of relief. The existence of this NPC was actually a balm to blown by the breeze. As a godly player, if this NPC revealed the secret, what would others think of him? And now, he had obtained a lot of wealth in the game. This wealth could be exchanged for money in the real world. Of course, in this world of gratification and revenge, of course, there would also be love. Especially the love between a godly player and a game rookie, it was naturally beautiful. The original owner's wish, to be a dutiful NPC, so that blown by the breeze could not casually use her. So that blown by the breeze would not be able to survive here. Ning Shu nodded. Although blown by the breeze was strong, he could not climb so fast to become the #1 godly player in the whole server. An unshakable godly player. Wealth, glory, and beautiful love. This task was actually a bit difficult. After all, the male lead had luck on him. As an NPC, he could not be too biased towards the players. He could not be too against the players. If he harmed the interests of the game company, he would still be obliterated. But now, without her help, blown by the breeze, could not climb so fast. Ning Shu sat on the ground. All kinds of codes and instructions flashed through his mind. Thinking about it, the original owner could not be considered a person. She could only be trapped in this game for a lifetime. Being conscious was actually a kind of tragedy. It was better not to know. The original owner was so attached to, blown by the breeze. First, it was because of the fledgling complex. After all, the first person she saw was, blown by the breeze. Second, the original owner also realized that she and, blown by the breeze, were different. So, she used the dungeon and boss information to please, blown by the breeze. But in, blown by the breeze's heart, the original owner was just a system loophole, a string of data. If it showed human nature, blown by the breeze also thought that it was artificial intelligence. After all, technology was so advanced, there was nothing that could not be done. Ning Shu sat on the ground and looked at the red mark on her jade-white ankle, but she didn't feel any pain. She rolled her eyes and walked to the river to look at her reflection in the water. She didn't expect the river to really reflect her face. This was an extremely realistic world. This could also be done. Ning Shu looked at the water. This image was designed very beautifully. She was wearing a white fluttering deep robe with wide sleeves. Her beautiful hair was tied with a blue hair band. Her face was beautiful and gentle. Her phoenix eyes were half curved and hid amber. Her red lips were a little cherry. She had a kind of fluttering temperament. But since it was a hero saving a beauty, the beauty had to be beautiful. Only then would the hero be willing to save her. Ning Shu was responsible for the area around the valley. She could only move around in this area. Every NPC had their own responsibilities. Now, Ning Shu was waiting for, blown by the breeze, to come. Ning Shu was really bored. She laid down on the grass and slept. Although she was an NPC, she still needed to sleep. What rested was her soul. After an unknown amount of time, a command sounded in her head. Ask the player in front of you for help. Ning Shu opened her eyes and saw a person standing in front of her. Looking at the ID above his head, blown by the breeze. I finally waited for you. Chapter 359. Following the cool breeze, was wearing a t-shirt and white pants. His entire person looked slender and elegant. His face was handsome and he didn't look very old. He was at most in his early 20s. In holographic online games, players could define their own appearance. They could choose the degree of similarity to their real body. It was estimated that Following the Cool Breeze had a very high degree of similarity. Looking at Following the Cool Breeze's level, it wasn't very high. He also didn't have any equipment on him. He was completely new to the game. Following the Cool Breeze didn't think that there would be a woman lying here. She was dressed in ancient clothing. Following the Cool Breeze knew that this should be a game NPC. It was just that when this woman opened her eyes, Following the Cool Breeze expressed that he was stunned. The game developers had designed this NPC to be very beautiful. Ning Shu and Following the Cool Breeze stared at each other. Ning Shu's head transmitted an instruction, "Hero, this little girl accidentally sprained her ankle. Go to the valley to find an herb." "Hero." Ning Shu said greedily, "Hero, this little girl accidentally sprained her ankle. Can you help this little girl go to the valley to find an herb called the aconite immortal grass?" Following the Cool Breeze knew that this was a mission issued by the system. He immediately accepted it and turned around to enter the valley. Ning Shu looked at Following the Cool Breeze's back. This time she didn't tell him the exact location of the immortal grass. She didn't tell him that the immortal grass was guarded by a boss. She also didn't tell him the boss's weakness. With Following the Cool Breeze's current level, it would be very difficult for him to deal with that boss. Ning Shu crossed his legs and waited for Following the Cool Breeze to come out. Sure enough, not long after, Following the Cool Breeze came out. Ning Shu looked at him. He had actually been killed by the boss and had actually lost 3 levels. His level wasn't high to begin with and now he had actually lost levels. Ning Shu was secretly pleased and asked, "Hero, you didn't bring back the immortal grass?" Following the Breeze did not make a sound. It was obvious that he was not in a good mood. After much difficulty, he finally found that thing called aconite immortal grass. Just as he was about to pick it, a large spider with coarse skin and thick flesh suddenly appeared. The spider's silk that it spat out entangled him, making him unable to even retaliate. In order to increase the realism of the game, in order to let the players feel real, the game had set up sensory stimulation, especially pain. Every time, blown by the wind, was clamped by the spider's poisonous claws, it would be very painful. It was extremely painful. At the same time, he was terrified. He was terrified that he was really going to die. With great difficulty, he managed to break free from the spider web, and, blown with the wind, ran out. At this moment, when he heard this NPC ask him if he had picked the immortal grass, Following the Breeze suddenly felt his face burning. Even if the other party was just an NPC, Following the Breeze still felt embarrassed. Especially in front of such a beautiful woman. Following the Breeze wiped his face and said, "The boss guarding the stage is too strong." At this moment, a notification appeared in Ning Shu's mind, "Hero, it's okay. That 8-clawed poisonous spider is strong, but I believe that Hero will definitely pick the aconite immortal grass to save me. This little girl believes in Hero. Hero, you can definitely do it." Ning Shu, fuck, this line was really fucking disgusting. The corner of Ning Shu's mouth twitched. He looked at Following the Breeze, and said, "You piece of trash, I told you to pick a grass but you can't even pick it." Following the Breeze, this NPC was really ruthless. Women were all fickle. Even NPCs were designed with this kind of character. Following the Breeze felt that he had been humiliated and left in embarrassment. In the following time, Ning Shu received players who came to the valley to clear the dungeon, but none of them succeeded. The game had just been released not long ago, so the players' levels were generally not high. Furthermore, they did not have any skilled skills and did not have any good equipment. Moreover, this was considered an intermediate dungeon. That spider's battle strength was very strong, and the most important thing was that this spider had laid nest after nest of small spiders. When he was in danger, it would release an endless amount of small spiders. Ning Shu lived leisurely every day. He did not eat, breathe, or excrete. Ning Shu also wanted to practice some peerless martial arts, but in the end, he gave up. This body was just a string of data, so he could not practice any peerless martial arts. This was the first time that he was so leisurely doing a quest. Ning Shu strolled around his surroundings and even found the immortal grass. Of course, he also saw the big spider. This big spider was very big as 2 desks. Its whole body was covered in black hair, and its swollen abdomen was full of spider silk. Its pair of pincers was also quite scary. The big spider did not see Ning Shu because it did not receive any instructions to attack. Even if Ning Shu picked the immortal grass, the big spider would not pay attention to Ning Shu. Ning Shu did not know how to pick this thing, so it was useless to her. She would not do anything that exceeded her limits. There were always players who came to this dungeon. Ning Shu followed the system's instructions and spoke very sweetly to these people to send themselves to death. Basically, those who entered would drop a level. Not long after, Following the Breeze came again. Following the Breeze came again. Ning Shu was not surprised at all. From a certain point of view, the original owner could be considered Following the Breeze's golden finger. This time, Following the Breeze did not come alone. He brought 3 people. It seemed like a group had come. He knew that he could not deal with the big spider alone, so he brought more people. Ning Shu looked at the IDs above their heads. A chrysanthemum facing the south, the wind blows my balls cold, and the monster is very strong, you go first. Ning Shu was speechless. What kind of names were these? However, these people would all be famous gods in the future. They were the companions of Following the Breeze. When they encountered large dungeons and strong monsters, these people would Following the Breeze to kill monsters. A chrysanthemum facing the south looked at Ning Shu and said, "Yo, this is the first time I've seen such a beautiful NPC. Every day in the beginner village, I would have come out if I knew earlier." Right now, most of the players were still wandering around the beginner village. The levels of the people brought by Following the Breeze were not very high. They probably wanted to use the human wave tactic to defeat the 8-clawed poison spider. Ning Shu felt that these people were too naive. Following the Breeze looked at Ning Shu and said, "This NPC has a weird personality. Don't provoke her." Ning Shu pretended not to hear what Following the Breeze said and told him about the quest. "Hero, this little girl accidentally sprained her ankle. Can you help this little girl go to the valley to find a stalk of immortal herb called aconite? This little girl will definitely repay you generously." Following the Breeze looked at the pitiful Ning Shu and accepted the quest. He brought his 3 companions and went in. Ning Shu shrugged his shoulders. "I'll just wait for you guys to return victorious." This quest was still very rich. Not only would there be immortal herbs, there would also be equipment dropped by the big spider. She would also give some benefits. Chapter 360. Ning Shu didn't think that these 4 noobs would be able to kill the spider. At that time, Following the Breeze was so lucky, using the method given by the original owner to kill the big spider. Now she didn't give any pointers to Following the Breeze, let's see how he played. It was clearly an intermediate level dungeon, and he wanted to use the noob's experience to clear it. Ning Shu felt that Following the Breeze was going against this dungeon. It was probably because she said that Following the Breeze was trash, which provoked him and made him want to clear this dungeon no matter what. Ning Shu waited outside for the 4 people to come out. After a long time, the 4 people came out with their tails between their legs. Ning Shu saw that they had all dropped levels. Especially the player called Wind Blows My Balls Cold, there were still a few small spiders hanging on his body. The small spiders were tightly attached to his body, and he couldn't shake them off. In the end, it was the mage called a Chrysanthemum Blossom South who released an icicle that killed the small spiders. After killing the small spiders, a Chrysanthemum Blossom South, this burly man, received a pitiful amount of experience and a few gold coins. He. Ning Shu covered her mouth and laughed, asking, "Hero didn't bring back the immortal grass. The 4 people, they didn't complete the quest, why was she laughing?" This NPC was crazy. Following the Breeze let out a breath and said, "The boss is too strong." Ning Shu didn't scold Following the Breeze as trash anymore. After all, there were so many people watching. Ning Shu said with a face full of sympathy, "Hero, it's okay. That 8-clawed poisonous spider is strong, but I believe that Hero will definitely pick the immortal grass to save me. I believe in Hero, you can definitely do it." Following the Breeze was very surprised that this time the NPC was so easy to talk to. Out of instinct, Following the Breeze still asked, "We are looking for the immortal grass for you. Can you tell us, what are the weaknesses of that 8-clawed poisonous spider? What do you mean by looking for the immortal grass for me? It's clearly your own quest." "I don't feel any pain, I'm still alive and kicking." Ning Shu didn't tell Following the Breeze everything like in the storyline, but now Following the Breeze actually asked it himself. It was clear that the storyline was powerful. Do you think that an NPC would answer you if you asked such a question? Ning Shu covered her red ankle and pitifully said, "Hero, this little girl accidentally sprained her ankle. Can you help this little girl go to the valley to find a stalk of immortal aconite grass? This little girl will definitely repay you generously." Following the cool breeze, cool wind between pants and balls, felt that, Following the Breeze, was trying to be funny, so he opened his mouth and said, "She's just an NPC, what the hell would she know? Are you crazy? Why don't you look at the game guide instead of asking an NPC?" Ning Shu looked at the few of them repeating the mission over and over again. "Hero, this little girl accidentally sprained her ankle. Can you help this little girl go to the valley to find a stalk of immortal aconite grass? This little girl will definitely repay you generously." Following the cool breeze could only shake his head and leave with his companions. From time to time, Following the cool breeze would turn back to look at Ning Shu, whose skirt was fluttering in the wind. This NPC was following the cool breeze's opportunity. He should be able to feel it himself, but I won't tell you right now. If I don't tell you, you'll be anxious to death. Ning Shu grabbed a small bird and played with it in his hand. When he met players, he would release a mission. Sometimes there would be female players who came to do missions. Of course, the results were even worse than the male players, and they were forced to return to the city to heal. This made Ning Shu a little excited to see who would be the first to complete the mission. In the storyline, the first to complete the mission was Following the Cool Breeze. After that, the entire world broadcast Following the Cool Breeze's achievements. After all, he was the first to complete an intermediate level dungeon, so it was quite amazing. At that time, Following the Cool Breeze's reputation gradually grew. In addition to the original owner's continuous instructions to Following the Cool Breeze, Following the Cool Breeze's achievements were constantly refreshed and he became a great god. Later on, when the game became popular, Following the Cool Breeze also became a great god with a stable position. Following the Cool Breeze also did not casually complete dungeons. Only when they encountered the ultimate dungeon, would the super boss form a team to farm monsters. He was a godlike existence. Just in the game, it allowed Following the Cool Breeze to earn a lot of money. In fact, this should be considered a prequel to the story. The beginning of the story was when a little noob met a great god. In fact, this was a little girl's fantasy story. But the original owner did not know that after she was killed, Following the Cool Breeze fell in love with a female priest player. However, Ning Shu also had her own things to do. That was, she liked coding. In her mind, there were constantly all kinds of data and codes flashing by. Ning Shu did not know if the original owner could see it. Ning Shu took a wooden stick and drew on the ground, writing out the codes in her mind. Then, she asked 2333 to teach her what these were. If she learned these codes, she might be able to become a computer expert. If she was a hacker, it would be even better. She could hack into anyone's computer if she wanted to. The system lord was much more complicated than the game's programming. It looked down on this kind of programming that was full of loopholes. However, when Ning Shu asked, it still explained it to Ning Shu. Ning Shu learned these things. Although it was difficult to understand, she learned it every day. She understood that any kind of programming had loopholes. It was just that these loopholes could be big or small. Generally, it was not easy to find them. Ning Shu learned more and more enthusiastically. If she mastered this, she might be able to walk through the game without being killed. With something to focus on, Ning Shu did not pay much attention to following the cool breeze. Instead, she focused more on coding. Every time she saw flowers and grass, Ning Shu felt that they were all codes. Strings of codes. Following the cool breeze came to accept the quest again. This time, he came alone. However, this time, his level had increased and he had some equipment on him. He looked completely different from his previous poor appearance. It was clear that he felt that he had the strength to kill the big spider. Following the cool breeze walked in front of Ning Shu. Before Ning Shu could call out for a hero, I limped and directly said, "I want to accept this quest." Ning Shu almost could not help but roll his eyes. He repeated the same lines again before letting following the cool breeze accept the quest. Under Ning Shu's gaze, following the cool breeze walked into the valley with his head held high. This time, Ning Shu secretly followed him. Following the cool breeze had already started fighting with the 8-clawed poison spider. This time, following the cool breeze was much stronger than before. The dazzling sword in his hand had an extremely strong attack power, leaving scars on the 8-clawed poison spider's body. There was also a corrosive effect. Ning Shu furrowed his brows. Was he really going to let following the cool breeze kill this guy? If he really did, then following the cool breeze would be the first person to conquer this dungeon. How could that be? Chapter 361. The battle was very intense. Ning Shu saw that, following the breeze, had such a powerful and cool equipment. He did not know if this equipment was obtained by him or if it was bought with money. Ning Shu saw that the 8-clawed poisonous spider could not hold on any longer and had already released countless small spiders, densely attacking, following the breeze. The sword in, following the breeze, S hand drew a line of fire dragons, exterminating these small spiders. At the same time, these small spiders were all turned into gold coins and were kept by, following the breeze. It looked like, following the breeze, really wanted to conquer this intermediate level dungeon. Ning Shu took a deep breath and looked at the 8-clawed poisonous spider that was about to be defeated. He wanted to use the shitty coding skills that he had just learned to change the 8-clawed poisonous spider's command code, giving this large spider the ability to heal itself. The large spider was now a series of codes in Ning Shu's eyes. Ning Shu had only adjusted the position of 2 of the characters. After adjusting the characters, Ning Shu looked forward to seeing the large spider heal itself. But what Ning Shu did not expect was that the large spider did not have the ability to heal itself. Instead, it became even bigger than before. It was about the size of a room and looked even more ferocious. Ning Shu was speechless. Could it be that she had adjusted the position wrongly? Following the breeze, was even more speechless than Ning Shu. Seeing that this strange eye was about to be destroyed by him, it suddenly showed its might and became so big. It simply made people's eyes fall out. Following the breeze, shook his head. The sword in his hand was obtained with great difficulty. It was a fire attribute sword. After obtaining this equipment, he came to this place where he had been humiliated many times. He did not know what he was thinking, but, following the breeze, was determined to conquer this dungeon. This feeling was very strong, so he came after obtaining this equipment. In the end, he still did not succeed. Following the breeze, turned around and left the valley. Ning Shu saw that, following the breeze, did not continue to fight and left. He ran out of the valley and waited for, following the breeze, at the entrance of the valley. When Ning Shu saw that he had come out, he covered his mouth and giggled. This made following the breeze's expression very ugly. He said that he had not completed the mission and turned to leave. After Cool Breeze left, Ning Shu hurriedly entered the valley. Looking at the huge spider, Ning Shu wanted to restore it to its original appearance. If the command code was too abnormal, it would be discovered by the main game system. Then, Ning Shu didn't even know what rune she had just changed. Now, he was at a loss. As a last resort, Ning Shu could only ask for help. 2333 system, where was I changing the code just now? 2333, with your level of skill, don't come out and show off. If you get popular, you'll get killed by the game developers. 2333 pointed out the position of the characters in the code. Ning Shu felt that he was stupid. He turned to 2333 and asked, "Is there any wisdom pill that can be consumed by humans in the system store? I can exchange for some in the future." "I'm sorry, there are only wisdom pills for animals." 2333 said faintly, "Every mission has a reward of attribute points. Just add the attribute points to your wisdom. Only when you use your brain do you realize how stupid you are." 2333 said disdainfully. Ning Shu changed the position of the characters in the code. Then, the house-sized spider returned to its original appearance. Ning Shu let out a sigh of relief. Ning Shu continued to study the code. Everything around him was made of code. Changing a character in the code turned a blade of grass into a tree. This feeling was too magical. On the other hand, following the breeze felt that something was wrong. The game guide did not mention that the spider would become bigger. Moreover, he had already seen that the spider had almost no health left. Following the breeze returned to the main city and informed his friends to form a group to clear this small valley. If they couldn't even clear this small valley, how could they dominate the game? Thus, when everyone had arrived, following the breeze came to the valley again. Ning Shu threw away the tree branch in the book. He raised his eyebrows and looked at following the breeze who had left and returned. Following the breeze's group had become stronger. Another ID was added. She was a priest and was the group's healer. This ID was really fitting. A burly man called a chrysanthemum blossoms southward greeted Ning Shu, "Hi beautiful lady, we meet again. It's a pity that such a beauty is only an NPC." Ning Shu covered her ankle and said pitifully, "Hero, I've sprained my ankle. Can you help me go to the valley and find a herb called immortal aconite grass? I'll definitely repay you generously." Who knew how many times she had to say this sentence every day? Every time she met a player, she would say it. A chrysanthemum blossom southward shook his head, "It's a pity for such a beauty." Wind blows my balls cold agreed, how good would it be if she was a beautiful player? As he said that, he touched following the breeze, "Don't you think so, boss? Boss always comes to do this quest. I even suspect that boss has fallen in love with this NPC. A strong monster you go first also laughed out loud. Ning Shu was speechless. If it really was a senseless NPC, it would be fine if you guys teased her like this. Fuck, this NPC in front of you can hear you. This was the first time in his life that he had been teased. Ning Shu really wanted to kick their crotch. However, a long vine suddenly grew out of the leg of a strong monster you go first and tied him up. Everyone was at a loss for a moment, but following the breeze still cut off the vine. After cutting off the vine, following the breeze received a gold coin. A strong monster you go first immediately jumped up and asked, "Fuck, did you guys see the vine attack me just now? There wasn't this damn thing last time. How come there is this time?" A strong monster you go first looked around vigilantly. Following the breeze frowned. He felt that it was very strange. "Boss, are we still going to accept this quest?" A big breasts big boss asked. Following the breeze asked, "Can you explain what happened just now? This kind of thing didn't happen in other dungeons. Why was there always so much trouble here?" Following the breeze looked at the beautiful NPC in front of him. He felt that this NPC was really different from the other dull NPCs. Could it be that this valley wasn't an intermediate dungeon, but an ultimate dungeon? Ning Shu smiled politely and said, "In the game world, any kind of danger can happen. It's just that you didn't trigger the storyline. If you did, there would be dungeons everywhere." Following the breeze's eyes lit up. He asked Ning Shu again, "Is there a hidden dungeon in this valley?" "I'll fucking tell you." Ning Shu said faintly, "Please trigger the storyline on your own." Chapter 362. Following the breeze originally wanted to ask something from this NPC. His intuition told him that this NPC might know something. But the NPC refused to tell him, causing, following the breeze, to feel anxious. There was clearly something in front of his eyes, but he just couldn't grasp it. This feeling was very unbearable. His companions all stared at, following the breeze. Following the breeze nodded and accepted the quest. The group of people then went into the valley. Ning Shu followed behind them into the valley and saw that they were working together seamlessly. Ning Shu smiled indifferently. Following the breeze warned his companions, "Be careful, this thing will become very big." So everyone was looking forward to this spider becoming bigger, but they immediately discovered that this spider's defense was very strong. Many attacks landed on its body, but the spider's health did not decrease at all. There was no damage done to it at all. The most baffling one was, following the breeze, because the last time he used his equipment, he was still able to leave a mark on the 8-clawed poison spider's body and even cause it to rot. But now there was no reaction at all. There was simply no way to fight. Seeing the 8-clawed poison spider release a large number of small spiders, following the breeze, used the sword in his hand to release a fire dragon, burning these small spiders to ashes. He then said to the others, "Let's go, we're not fighting anymore. We're leaving first." Ning Shu stood at the entrance of the valley and waited for the passers-by, asking, "Hero, why haven't you guys succeeded yet? This little girl's foot hurts." Following the breeze simply did not know what to say. Why was this dungeon so hard to fight? It was simply too hard to kill. Every time he came, it was different. "A chrysanthemum blossoms to the south," Ning Shu said, "Beautiful girl, just bear with it a little more. Next time we'll definitely succeed." As he said that, he even wanted to stretch out his hand to touch Ning Shu. This NPC looked so real, he didn't know how to feel. Ning Shu was speechless. Even teasing an NPC, could you be any better at playing? You want to tease me? Trigger a level 1 storyline. Ning Shu said coldly. This was originally a pre-designed storyline. A chrysanthemum blossoms to the south stared at Ning Shu in astonishment. Ning Shu pitifully said to the other 4 players, "Heroes, save me. I'm weak, and now I've met a bully who wants to take me. I have nothing to repay her, so I'll give her my rainbow feather and 2 bottles of vitality-raising pills. Heroes, please save me." A chrysanthemum facing south almost jumped up. He was clearly a player, but now he had become a monster. A chrysanthemum blossoms towards the south hurriedly waved his hands when he saw that his companions were up to no good. "I'm a player, I'm not trying to flirt with her." Teasing an NPC was simply too embarrassing. "I'm sorry, chrysanthemum. Who asked you to be so valuable? The rainbow feather is a material for creating divine artifacts. This is something that has been delivered to my doorstep. It would be a waste to reject it. Fuck, you guys can't be so heartless, forgetting your friends when you see profit. A chrysanthemum blossoms to the south was attacked by a swarm of 3 players. As the leader of the party, blown by the wind, could not attack his own teammates. He just watched from the side and looked at Ning Shu with a complicated expression. In the end, a chrysanthemum blossoms was attacked until he lost a level, and the quest was considered complete. Ning Shu looked at the bruised and battered a chrysanthemum blossoms to the south. The system gave him the rainbow feather and 2 bottles of vitality-raising pills. Ning Shu was very happy in his heart, and said with a happy face, "Thank you, heroes, for getting rid of the bully and allowing me to escape from the evil clutches." When a chrysanthemum blossoms to the south heard Ning Shu's words, his face twitched. After, blown by the wind, and the others left, Ning Shu went back to the valley to adjust the code of the big spider. Then, Ning Shu began to crazily learn how to code. Who knew, he might be able to leave his identity as an NPC. Although 2333's conduct was very unpleasant, he was really very knowledgeable. It wasn't that knowledgeable, but it was more like he had all sorts of things in his knowledge base. When he needed them, 2333 would be able to pull them out. Ning Shu used a tree branch to constantly write on the ground, constantly learning. However, this dungeon was finally conquered by someone. It was a male player with the ID, "This King is Mighty." The World Channel released a message, congratulating "This King is Mighty" for conquering the Spider Valley dungeon. When, blown by the wind, heard this news, he was shocked. The dungeon was so difficult, but this player named "This King is Mighty" had actually conquered it. Furthermore, he had done it alone. Blown by the wind went to find "This King is Mighty," but he saw that "This King is Mighty's level was lower than his own. His stats were inferior to him in all aspects. They had formed a group to farm the monster, but they had not succeeded. However, this King is Mighty had succeeded alone. Blown by the wind communicated with "This King is Mighty," and when he heard "This King is Mighty" say that the big spider did not have the ability to grow bigger, nor did it have a strong defense, it made blown by the wind even more confused. Why was it that when he went to farm the monster, the big spider was so strong, but why was it so easy for him? Blown by the wind felt that he had followed the game's guidelines correctly, but blown by the wind also knew that there was no need for them to target him. With "This King is Mighty's success, there were also people who succeeded in conquering this dungeon. This made blown by the wind even more dissatisfied. At the same time, he felt that he had lost something. He had always valued this dungeon, and wanted to be the first to conquer this dungeon. This was an indescribable feeling. In order to verify his thoughts, blown by the wind went to the valley again. He wanted to see if the spider was so easy to farm. If it was so easy, he would have taken down this dungeon long ago. When Ning Shu saw, blown by the wind, he curled his lips, knowing that he would come. Blown by the wind succeeded, easily killing the big spider, and plucking the immortal grass, but it made his expression very ugly. How could it be so easy? Did the game's developers change the difficulty? Ning Shu looked at the angry, blown by the wind, coming out to turn in the quest, and suppressed the joy in his heart, then watched, blown by the wind, leave. This was done on purpose by Ning Shu. Every time, blown by the wind, came to the dungeon, Ning Shu would increase the difficulty. Once, blown by the wind left, Ning Shu would return it to the previous difficulty. When there were players who conquered this dungeon, Ning Shu would not use this dungeon to make things difficult for blown by the wind anymore. He did not want blown by the wind to be the first person to conquer this dungeon. This valley was the first step for blown by the wind to become famous. Now that blown by the wind had conquered this dungeon, there was no use at all. After all, there were still quite a few players who had conquered this dungeon. If there were more, it would not be strange. After, Blown by the Wind, conquered this dungeon, his few companions came over to conquer this dungeon. But this time, when they saw Ning Shu, they did not dare to speak nonsense anymore. After conquering the dungeon and getting their own things, they left. Chapter 363. After completing the Spider Valley Instance dungeon, Following the Breeze became angrier the more he thought about it. He felt that he was being targeted. When he was killing monsters, the Instance dungeon was difficult, but when other people were doing it, it was so easy. Following the Breeze directly questioned the game developer on the game forum. The content of the post was nothing more than the game developer casually changing the difficulty of the game. He also explained in detail the changes of the 8-clawed venomous spiders and the process of him defeating the monsters. Following the Breeze's post quickly became a popular post. To verify the authenticity of the post, many gamers came to the valley to see if it was true. Ning Shu, who was studying seriously, suddenly had to receive many gamers. They swarmed to the Instance dungeon, which made Ning Shu feel puzzled. Ning Shu roughly knew what was going on from these gamers. They were here to test the large spider. She did not change the programming code of the 8-clawed venomous spiders. The large spider was very normal now. Even the game's main system could not detect any abnormalities. However, what Ning Shu did not expect was that Sui Qingfeng actually had such a reaction. Was he angry out of humiliation? Ning Shu did not know how Following the Breeze was feeling. If the Instance dungeons were of the same difficulty, then it would be fine. However, it was different every time. It was simply toying with him. The gamers who came to test felt that everything was normal. However, the gamer who posted the post swore solemnly as if it was true. Many players were looking down on Following the Breeze and replied to Following the Breeze in the post. Opposite is my grandson. After personal verification, what the OP said did not happen. The OP must have seen a ghost. I sympathize, peasant, the OP must be suffering from paranoia. Noon, 1, my dear is right. Pretty name, what is the OP thinking when he posted this? Could it be that the game developer fell in love with you and used this method to attract your attention? Although a few of Following the Breeze's buddies supported him, he was still drowned out. The posts were one-sided and had been verified, so most players felt that Following the Breeze was just a person who was trying to attract attention and scam people to reply to his posts. Using such an obvious lie to deceive people, wasn't that just playing to the gallery? What kind of person was she in real life? Following the Breeze looked at these replies and was about to explode in anger. These people had no idea what was going on. Several members of Following the Breeze looked at each other. A chrysanthemum blossoms to the south, comforted, Following the Breeze, boss, we naturally believe in you, but what's the use of us believing in you? Everyone thinks that there's nothing wrong. Very strong monsters, you go first also said, luckily, there was only one dungeon that had a problem. Don't talk about that dungeon anymore. Let's go to other dungeons. Blown by the Wind rubbed his forehead. There was an inexplicable anger in his heart. Even he himself did not know where this anger came from. In short, he was very angry. Yurong Big Breast said, boss, don't worry about it. Don't worry about that dungeon anymore. There's been a new dungeon recently. I heard that the equipment of the monsters this time is pretty good. We can earn a lot. Blown by the Wind could only nod his head. He kept feeling that there was something that he had forgotten. The popularity of Blown by the Wind's post did not decrease. It alarmed the game officials. In order to show fairness, the game officials rescanned all the data of the Spider Valley dungeon and concluded that everything was normal. They announced the results of this announcement. Blown by the Wind looked at this result and only laughed coldly. Whatever the officials wanted to say, he had already admitted his defeat. Blown by the Wind deleted the post. However, the dungeon owners kept an eye on it. The game capsule cached the dungeon so that there would be evidence. However, these dungeons did not have any more problems. Ning Shu only laughed coldly. She felt that after a period of time, she would be able to break away from the identity of an NPC. However, with her current programming novice level, she still needed a period of time. Ning Shu was more concerned about, blown by the wind. As expected, he was a person with luck. The current, blown by the wind, already had a bit of fame. Moreover, his skills were excellent. It was said that he was going to establish a guild soon. Ning Shu was not in a hurry. She worked hard to learn how to program. These things were very complicated. Ning Shu wanted to ensure that she would be able to break away from the system's control without any mistakes. Blown by the Wind was already very popular in the game and was respectfully called a great god. After countless experiments, Ning Shu took a deep breath. Finally, she replicated an NPC that looked exactly like her. This NPC was connected to the main system and would replace her to complete the commands of the main system. Actually, this NPC was a real NPC. It would meticulously complete the commands issued by the main system. And Ning Shu would be able to break away from the main system. Ning Shu registered a player account for herself. Her ID was, "Kneel and worship this palace." Then, Ning Shu used the identity of a player to wander around the game. She changed her clothes and chose a martial master character. She held a large knife and chopped monsters. She felt very refreshed. Ning Shu started a life of unlimited dungeons. This allowed Ning Shu's level to soar. Ning Shu did not think of using the programming code to cheat. After all, she was now an honest player. Walking in the night for a long time would lead to bumping into ghosts. So Ning Shu did not think of cheating at all. Killing monsters that had no life but a string of data felt very refreshed. She obtained a lot of good equipment. In a large-scale dungeon, Ning Shu and, Blown by the Wind, met. When Ning Shu saw, Blown by the Wind, she pulled out the large knife on her back and shouted, "You thief, eat my knife." Then, without caring about anything else, she chopped towards, Blown by the Wind. Blown by the Wind was first stunned. Then, he saw a woman rushing towards him. She was simply crazy. Blown by the Wind avoided Ning Shu's attack. He was not going to fight with a woman. Moreover, he did not even know this person with the ID, "Kneel and worship this palace." Ning Shu did not care about, Blown by the Wind, dodging. She continued to rush towards him. She was determined to fight with, Blown by the Wind. "You're crazy. If you continue to be like this, don't blame me for being rough." Blown by the Wind coldly snorted. He held a cool sword in his hand and confronted Ning Shu. Ning Shu opened his mouth and sneered, "I want to take revenge for my sister." "You're a beast who plays with other people's feelings." Blown by the Wind, crazy. "Boss, who did you play with?" "A chrysanthemum blossoms to the south," asked, Blown by the Wind. He then looked towards Ning Shu, "Such a beautiful woman. Can't we talk things out? Why fight and kill? Listen to Chrysanthemum brother. If there's anything, let's sit down and talk." Chapter 364. Ning Shu felt that the guy with the ID, "A chrysanthemum blossoms towards the south," was the most wretched. He looked at him and said, "You guys are jackals of the same tribe. You're someone who even flirts with NPCs. I don't dare to sit with you." A chrysanthemum blossoms towards the south, this was simply a black history. A chrysanthemum blossoms towards the south, wiped his face and his face twitched. The other team members who originally wanted to support their boss, upon seeing this scene, suddenly fell silent. Following the breeze, looked at the pestering Ning Shu and said, "I don't know the sister you're talking about. Did you get the wrong person?" Ning Shu shook his head and said, "Even if you turned into ashes, I'd still recognize you. Because of you, my sister is living a life worse than death. Yet you're free and unfettered in the game. I'm going to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. Following the Breeze was baffled. When did he cheat a girl's feelings? Following the Breeze sneered and said, if you want to use this kind of method to attract my attention, this kind of method makes me feel disgusted. Why don't you tell me your sister's name? You don't need to use such a disgusting name to get close to me. Ning Shu, could it be that the current, following the Breeze, was so famous that all the female players were throwing themselves at him? Ni Pingson. Abbreviated as NPC. Never heard of her. Following the Breeze said expressionlessly. Ning Shu sneered and said, of course you don't remember. My sister was heartbroken for you and you actually don't remember her. You really are heartless. Following the Breeze expression was very impatient. Someone suddenly appeared and said that he cheated a girl's feelings. How could he be happy? He directly waved the sword in his hand and wanted to destroy this noisy and annoying girl in front of him. Ning Shu chuckled a couple of times. While blocking Sui Qingfeng's sword, she coldly said, see, you're angry out of humiliation. You deceived my sister's feelings and even used her to achieve your own goals. You simply can't be any worse. Crazy. Following the Breeze coldly waved his sword. Seeing that the opponent was actually able to dodge his attack, he increased the power of his attack. Ning Shu did not have as many pieces of equipment as Following the Breeze, so it would be difficult for him to deal with Following the Breeze, but he would not be defeated easily. The surrounding players looked at each other. When did such a powerful person appear? Moreover, she was a female player. Moreover, she had chosen the martial master character. Normally, very few female players would choose such a character. Usually, they would choose to play supporting in elegant roles. Ning Shu saw that he wasn't Following the Breeze's opponent for the time being. In order to avoid losing levels, Ning Shu retreated a few steps to avoid Following the Breeze's attack. Following the Cool Breeze coldly looked at Ning Shu. At this time, Following the Cool Breeze had the demeanor of a great deity. He stood proudly on Mount Han, with an attitude that was too high to endure. Stop fighting. Aya, if you have something to say, let's talk it out. Wind blows my balls cold, could tell that the two of them didn't want to fight anymore. Kneel and worship this queen was slightly weaker than blown by the wind, but the boss didn't want to bear the reputation of not being gentlemanly and bullying female players. Ning Shu arrogantly said, I'll let you off this time. I'm here to clear an instance dungeon. Following the Cool Breeze didn't say anything. He just coldly laughed. What the hell was he laughing at? His fake smile was really ugly. He really thought that he had some style. Pretentious. Beauty, you're also here to clear this instance dungeon. Why don't we form a team? The monsters this time are very strong. I see that your strength isn't weak. Join us and we can resolve our grudges. Let's laugh and forget our grudges. A chrysanthemum blossomed southward, said to Ning Shu. A pair of lecherous eyes were still looking at Ning Shu's face. Ning Shu really wanted to dig out his eyeballs. Her current appearance was already completely different from an NPC. At most, she could be considered to have a delicate and pretty face. She was already like this, yet this guy was still like this. No wonder even NPCs wanted to take liberties with people. Ning Shu glanced at Following the Cool Breeze and coldly snorted. She disdainfully said, I won't stay with some people. Following the Cool Breeze coldly said, you simply don't have the qualifications to join my team. Ning Shu curled her lips and turned around to enter the instance dungeon. This instance dungeon was in a dilapidated palace. There were many treasures in this palace, especially some hidden artifacts. Perhaps the stones you passed by could be the highest quality gems. But in Ning Shu's eyes, these were all strings of data. After going through a series of twists and turns, he would be able to obtain some good things. Following the cool breeze, S team also entered the palace. Relying on their keen senses, following the cool breeze, and his team found many treasures. As expected of Nan Zhu Jun, who had a halo around her. Ning Shu discovered that the equipment on Following the Cool Breeze were all top quality. Even the other people's equipment wasn't bad. They were simply a group of rich people. He really wanted to rob these people. The guarding boss was an ink-top silver beast. Its entire body was pitch black like a shadow and its speed was extremely fast. Before they could even react, this boss would be by their side. One claw was enough to make them lose a level. A few more claws and they could only be killed and sent back to the city. Losing a level could be trained back, but when these claws hit a person's body, it could cause them to vomit blood. The feeling was too real. Ning Shu took the lead to face off against this boss. The opponent was too fast, making her unable to react. Ning Shu analyzed the boss's code. The stronger the boss, the more stable its code was. Ning Shu didn't even know where to start. She really was too bad. She should learn more. Ning Shu was kicked in the back by the boss's hoof. Immediately, she felt a burning pain. Ever since she became a player, her stats were based on the player. Even if she was just a string of data, it would still cause her to feel pain. "Hi beautiful lady, do you need our help?" A chrysanthemum blossoms smiled at Ning Shu and asked. Every time Ning Shu saw the smile on this burly man's face, she felt that it was very wretched. Ning Shu humphed and crawled up from the ground. No need. Following the Cool Breeze glanced at Ning Shu and started to attack the boss with a few other members. Ning Shu saw that these people were not weak. As expected of an unshakable god in the future. Ning Shu planned to retreat. This boss was too strong. She couldn't do it. However, she wanted to level up and get a few more pieces of equipment before trying again. Following the Cool Breeze saw that this female player was preparing to leave. A ray of light flashed in his eyes. He turned around and rushed towards Ning Shu. Ning Shu, fuck, this bastard. Ning Shu saw that Following the Cool Breeze had lured the boss over. She immediately became angry. She held a large sword in her hand and prepared to fight the boss head-on. The boss's huge impact made Ning Shu feel as if her internal organs were displaced. In an instant, she was killed by this boss and lost 5 levels. Ning Shu sucked in a breath of pain. She turned around and ran. It was never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Next time, she would definitely kill Following the Cool Breeze and lose 5 levels. No, 10 levels. Chapter 365. Following the Breeze looked at Ning Shu's fleeing figure and furrowed his brows. He really didn't like this female player, especially her eyes. He felt like he had seen them somewhere before. It made Following the Breeze feel a little haze in his heart. He really didn't like this feeling. The other members looked at Following the Breeze. A chrysanthemum blossomed southward, said, "Boss, you actually lured the boss and killed her level, and it was even level 5. Your own big breasts, boss, what you're doing isn't right." A chrysanthemum blossomed southward nodded, "Yeah, it really wasn't right." Following the Breeze said snappily, "Come on, isn't it just because she's a female player? If it was a male player, would you guys be so protective?" A chrysanthemum blossomed southward shrugged his shoulders. It's rare to see a female player that's not weak. There's always a special feeling, ha 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 ha. In the end, Following the Breeze and the others killed the boss and dropped a lot of equipment. The game's main system broadcasted Following the Breeze and his party's achievements in the world. The equipment that was dropped made other players drool. And at this time, Ning Shu had already returned to the city. Going out for a trip had lowered her level by 5. What Ning Shu didn't expect was that, following the breeze, was actually so sinister. It didn't match his refined and handsome appearance. This time she was careless. Ning Shu was very suspicious. If the game's main system didn't discover the original owner's abnormality, she was afraid that, following the breeze, would have told the game's developers about this loophole and finally erased the original owner. This time she was tricked by him, but there wouldn't be a next time. Ning Shu first learned the code. One day she would be able to understand all the codes in this game world. She wasn't skilled enough and didn't dare to casually change the code. If she was found out, then she would be miserable. Being erased would be miserable. Because of the drop in level, Ning Shu had no choice but to farm monsters for equipment and experience. She had to raise her level. There were many benefits to having a higher level. Her defense and attack would greatly increase. Ning Shu found that her quest was just like a game. Completing the quest would give her reward. But the game she played was much more difficult than this. The bet was her life. If she didn't complete it, then there was nothing left. And this kind of game could start all over again. Ning Shu returned to Spider Valley to take a look, preparing to return to his own territory to grind. The replicated NPC was a very responsible NPC. When he saw Ning Shu walking over, he immediately asked for help from Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked at the beautiful but dull NPC. If the original owner was like this, he definitely wouldn't have been killed. But what's the point of being so silly and ignorant? Being able to understand human feelings was something that couldn't be exchanged for anything. It was a pity that although he had feelings, he didn't have experience or intelligence. In the end, because of his insignificant feelings, he buried himself. It was impossible for the original owner and, following the breeze, to be one. Humans and demons were very different. One person with a string of codes, it was simply the strangest combination. Following the breeze was only using the original owner. In his heart, he probably knew that this NPC liked him and probably felt disgusted. But towards the original owner, he was just coaxing and deceiving. Ning Shu accepted the quest and entered the valley. As soon as the eight-clawed poisonous spider saw that Ning Shu was about to pick the immortal grass, it immediately spat out spider silk at Ning Shu, wanting to entangle Ning Shu. Before, when she was still an NPC, this spider didn't even bother with her. Now that she was a player, it immediately attacked. Ning Shu directly used her broadsword to stab through the large spider's swollen abdomen. The large spider was destroyed. Ning Shu took the immortal grass and went to turn in the quest. However, it required a lot of experience to increase by 5 levels. The higher the level, the more experience was required. Ning Shu hated Sui Qingfeng so much that her teeth itched. When she had more equipment and level up, she would definitely kill Sui Qingfeng 100 times. When Ning Shu was preparing to rush to the next instance dungeon, she suddenly heard the voices of 2 little girls. Then she saw the 2 girls walking over hand in hand. It was obvious that they were here to farm monsters. But Ning Shu looked at their state. They were holding hands and looking around as if they were shopping. This made Ning Shu very speechless. Ning Shu looked at the ID above their heads. One was called Lost Mimi. It was a little pharmacist. No, the level was too low. It should be called a little pharmacist. The other was called Icy Lotus. It was a mage. The levels of these 2 girls were not high. They actually came to farm an intermediate instance dungeon. It was obvious that they were rookies who had just entered the Jianghu. Ning Shu turned around and left. She still had to farm the next instance dungeon. After taking 2 steps, Ning Shu suddenly thought of something. That was, the destined girl of Following the Breeze was a girl called Lost Mimi. Then this little pharmacist was the female lead. In the original owner's memory, he did not have any impression of the female lead. Naturally, he did not know what the female lead looked like. Ning Shu turned her head and looked at Lost Mimi. She was thin and small, youthful and lively. In short, she looked like a very simple girl. And it should be the female lead. Ning Shu turned around and left. In the future, she would probably cross paths with this Lost Mimi. After all, she still had to chase and kill, following the breeze. Ning Shu was just about to leave and a voice called out to Ning Shu. The voice was crisp and lively. "Sister, wait a moment." Ning Shu, she had a premonition that trouble was coming. "Sister." Lost Mimi pulled her partner Icy Lotus and ran in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu saw that she was carrying a small medicine basket on her back. In the medicine basket, there were a few very low-level herbs. It was the kind of herbs that could be seen everywhere. It looked really shabby. Walking closer to take a look, Ning Shu discovered that Lost Mimi was very cute. She had a small round face, clear eyes, and a face full of collagen. She looked very tender and smooth. It made people's hands itch to pinch her and see if water could be pinched out. Following the breeze liked to tease this kind of little girl. Ning Shu coldly asked, "What's the matter?" Lost Mimi was a little reserved and asked Ning Shu, "Sister, how should we accept the quest?" Ning Shu pointed at the beautiful NPC and said, "You guys go over. The NPC will tell you what to do." "Can you be more specific?" Lost Mimi asked again. Ning Shu, this was no longer an ordinary noob. It was a white eye. When entering the game, you should first look at the game strategy. Seeing that the other party was looking at her strangely, Lost Mimi was a little reserved and said, "Is it too much trouble for you? You guys go over. The NPC will give you the quest." Ning Shu said somewhat powerlessly. "Thank you." Lost Mimi quickly thanked Ning Shu and then pulled her little friend over to the NPC. Ning Shu also heard the girl with the ID Icy Lotus whisper, "What's there to be arrogant about? Isn't it just a higher level? So arrogant." Chapter 366. Ning Shu naturally heard Clear Ice Lotus say that she was arrogant and proud. Ning Shu crossed his arms and looked at the two's backs. "Stop talking." Lost Mimi tugged on her friend's sleeve. She turned her head and saw Ning Shu looking at her. Suddenly, she felt a little embarrassed and quickly turned her back. The two rookies hurriedly accepted the quest and then entered the valley. Ning Shu was suddenly curious. Could it be that the two of them couldn't find the quest location? Maybe if they wandered around the valley, they wouldn't be able to find the location of the herb. Ning Shu used a tree branch to draw the code outside and waited for the two to come out. After waiting for a long time, Lost Mimi and Clear Ice Lotus came out. They didn't lose any levels and came out unscathed. Ning Shu was a little surprised. Did the two of them kill the 8-clawed poison spider? The two of them didn't go to the NPC to hand in the quest. Instead, they saw Ning Shu and came over excitedly. Lost Mimi asked Ning Shu, "Sister, were you waiting for us?" Ning Shu didn't say anything. Lost Mimi said, "Sister, there are a lot of herbs in the valley. Look, I found a lot of herbs." Ning Shu looked at the basket on Lost Mimi's back. There were some low-level herbs in it. "Didn't you do the quest?" Ning Shu asked. Lost Mimi said, "We didn't find the place. When we saw the herbs, Clear Ice Lotus and I went to pick the herbs. There are so many herbs." Ning Shu's mouth was slightly open. The tree branch in his hand fell. He was simply indescribably shocked. How much confidence did she have to be able to mistake stupidity for cuteness? Stupid people should learn more. Ning Shu's mouth twitched. He felt that he should go to the dungeon and kill Clear Ice Lotus. Why waste time here? Lost Mimi didn't come here to play games. She came here to meet a beautiful love. Compared to this girl, Ning Shu felt that he was quite smart. Ning Shu turned around and left, thinking that he needed to get himself a mount. He didn't believe that he could rely on his legs to walk. Lost Mimi still wanted to talk to this sister, but the other party left without saying anything, which made Lost Mimi a little embarrassed. Beside her, Clear Ice Lotus curled her lips and said, "Mimi, why are you talking to her? This kind of person's eyes grow on top of her head. Just because she's high level, she's very arrogant. Don't ask for a rebuff." Lost Mimi could only nod her head, and then said expectantly, "When can we also reach such a level and become experts?" "Definitely," Icy Lotus said. Ning Shu naturally knew that these two young ladies were very dissatisfied with him. So what if they were dissatisfied? Did he have to be polite and humble to them? This was originally a game world where seniority and strength were the most important. If he, a high-level player, lowered his voice to two newbies, that would be a joke. Ning Shu went to clear 2 more dungeons, but he still didn't let his level not go up. Moreover, if he leveled up again after leveling up, he would have 20% more points than before. Therefore, Ning Shu hated following the breeze to the point that his teeth itched. While Ning Shu was still working hard to clear dungeons, a message came from the World Channel: "Great God, following the breeze, will be establishing a guild in 2 days. He welcomes all players to come." This was the first guild in the entire server. Following the breeze was very ambitious. The requirements to establish a guild were very harsh. Honor points, battle power, level, all of these had to be met before the guild could be established. After establishing a guild, the game system would give the guild a few shops. These shops were all real money. Moreover, there were more and more players in the game, and there would be more wealth. Shops could bring a lot of benefits to a guild. This was the real Jianghu world. However, there were very few people who could establish a guild. Ning Shu clenched his fists. Since he was going to establish a guild, Ning Shu felt that he needed to give his blessings. The disappearance of Following the Breeze, who wanted to establish a guild, caused a commotion in some worlds. To be able to establish a guild in such a short period of time, he really was a great god. It must be known that most of the players had just left the newbie level and were slowly climbing up. Now, other great gods were establishing guilds. However, Ning Shu felt that the current Following the Breeze was far from the Following the Breeze in the storyline. He wasn't as godly as in the storyline. The current Following the Breeze was very impetuous, like a half-empty pot of water. He wanted to show off just because he had some achievements. He could barely be called a great god, but he couldn't be called a great god. Ning Shu felt that there should be a great god in this server, but he was a bit low-key. When Lost Mimi and Icy Clear Lotus heard this news, they were filled with worship. Icy Clear Lotus said to Lost Mimi, "Mimi, let's join a guild. This way, we can find a master and do quests easier." Lost Mimi's eyes lit up, but she hesitated and said, "Our levels are so low, they won't want us." Icy Clear Lotus patted Lost Mimi's shoulder and said with certainty, "They will definitely want us. Don't forget that you are a medicine master. Guilds lack this kind of support profession the most. We will definitely succeed. Okay, let's give it a try." Lost Mimi suddenly smiled. Her face looked very cute. 2 days later, Ning Shu arrived at the city where Following the Breeze established his guild. The guild's name was Following the Dragon Gang. The name was very domineering. Many players entered the guild with congratulatory gifts. Ning Shu held a phoenix feather in his hand and was about to give it to the doorman, but when he saw that the person who welcomed the players was a chrysanthemum blossoms to the south, he immediately took back the phoenix feather. When a chrysanthemum blossoms to the south saw the feather, his eyes lit up. Just as he reached out his hand to take it, the other party took it back. When he saw Ning Shu, his heart suddenly thumped. Seeing the other party like this, he was definitely here to cause trouble. A chrysanthemum blossoms to the south immediately smiled and said, "Hi beauty, long time no see. Your level has increased again. Congratulations, congratulations." A chrysanthemum blossoms to the south touched his head and said with a smile. However, he did not let Ning Shu in. Obviously, he did not welcome Ning Shu. Ning Shu revealed a fake smile and said, "Congratulations, congratulations. I haven't seen you for a while and you have already established your guild. When I heard the news, I wanted to come and pay my respects. This is my congratulatory gift." Ning Shu threw a gold coin to a chrysanthemum blossoms to the south and said without any sincerity, "Congratulations, you are the first guild in the entire server." A chrysanthemum blossoms to the south took the gold coin, his rough face twisted. Chapter 367. The congratulatory gift was just a gold coin. You might as well not give it. A chrysanthemum blossoms to the south said with a cold face, "Beauty, on such a joyous occasion, we welcome you with open arms with the Dragon Gang, but what you did was wrong." Ning Shu blinked and asked, "Don't you want the gift?" A chrysanthemum blossoms southwards threw the gold coin to Ning Shu, "You can go in." Ning Shu kept the gold coin and asked, "What is your leader's level now?" A chrysanthemum blossoms southwards looked at Ning Shu warily, "Why are you asking this?" "I'm just asking, why are you so nervous?" Ning Shu laughed. The two rookies not far away heard their conversation. Lost Mimi said anxiously, "We still need the gift, we don't have any at all." Icy Lotus was also anxious, "Can't we go in? If we don't go in, how can we join the Dragon Gang?" Lost Mimi saw that the elder sister she had met before seemed to know the people from the Dragon Gang. She pulled Icy Lotus and ran in front of Ning Shu and said, "Elder sister, can you take us in?" Ning Shu, Lost Mimi saw that Ning Shu didn't say anything, so she said to a chrysanthemum blossom southwards, "Can you let us in? We are here to participate in the opening ceremony, and we want to join the Dragon Gang." A chrysanthemum blossom southwards was obviously choked, especially after seeing the two girls' strength. He was speechless and said, "Our gang is not recruiting now. So it's like that." Lost Mimi was very sad and disappointed, showing all her emotions on her face. "I'm a mage, she's a pharmacist. Although she's only a junior pharmacist now, she'll be able to make pills soon." A chrysanthemum blossoms southwards, "They don't want such a trash pharmacist, there are plenty of great pharmacists who want to join their gang. But these two girls are really cute," a chrysanthemum blossoms southwards thought while rubbing his chin. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. He felt that the female lead would definitely be able to enter. "Chrysanthemum, let them in." Following the Breeze's voice rang out. Ning Shu turned her head and saw that Following the Breeze was wearing gorgeous equipment. Even his pair of shoes were top-quality god artifacts. It was like a moving mountain of gold. This was all money. Blown by the wind, stunned the two girls, especially Lost Mimi. Her eyes stared straight as she said, "He looks really good." Following the Breeze looked at Ning Shu. The player with the ID "Kneel and Worship This Palace" had actually leveled up. He had lost 5 levels from the boss, but now he had actually leveled back up. Moreover, his level was even higher than before, and he had a godly weapon on his wrist. Sui Qingfeng felt gloomy in his heart. Then, he heard a voice that didn't know what to say. Sui Qingfeng looked at the person who spoke. It was a little girl. Sui Qingfeng was speechless as he shook his head. He turned around and entered the guild. Lost Mimi immediately pulled Icy Lotus into the guild. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. The male lead and female lead met at a glance. Walking into the guild, everywhere was luxurious and joyous. It was obvious that Sui Qingfeng had paid a lot for this guild. After all, it was the first guild in the entire server. He guessed that the game developers would also help out a little. There were many players in the guild. They were all chatting with each other. Most of them were male players. There were very few female players. Seeing a high-level female player like Ning Shu suddenly appear, they were all very surprised. Especially when they saw the equipment on Ning Shu's body. Some players even came over to strike up a conversation with Ning Shu. But Ning Shu had a cold face and didn't say anything. This made the players who came over to strike up a conversation unhappy. However, some people paid attention and looked up and down at the equipment on Ning Shu's body. The two rookies, Lost Mimi and Icy Lotus, saw that there were many high-level players around them. They were all high-level players. This kind of scene made them feel weak in their hearts. They only knew this cold big sister here. The two rookies went over to Ning Shu's side. Ning Shu saw these two little girls go over to her side. She was speechless. Ning Shu knew that these two people didn't like her. Outside the house, there was the sound of firecrackers. Ning Shu listened to this sound and felt that the whole world was like a real world. There were many people, many grievances. It was virtual but also real. The original owner came back to live in this kind of world. This was a real world. What was real and what was fake, no one could say for sure. Sui Qingfeng brought a few partners and stood on the high platform. He was in high spirits as he announced the official opening of the Dragon Gang. Just as Sui Qingfeng finished speaking, there were countless red packets floating in the air. Sui Qingfeng said, "This is a little gift from the Dragon Gang. Thank you for coming to the Dragon Gang's opening ceremony." Many players were snatching the red packets. Ning Shu caught a red packet. When he opened it, he saw that it was actually a high-quality gem. If he was lucky, he could get a semi-divine weapon. If he was unlucky, he could only get a gold coin. The two girls beside Ning Shu each snatched a red packet. Icy Lotus only got 100 gold coins. Lost Mimi got a magic staff. It was extremely gorgeous and cool. Lost Mimi was only a pharmacist. This kind of staff was not suitable for her. He generously gave it to Icy Lotus and said, "Icy Lotus, this is for you." Icy Lotus Pure forced a smile and said, "Thank you. I heard that you want to join the Dragon Gang." Sui Qingfeng noticed the situation here. He saw the round apple-faced girl get a staff and walk over. Ning Shu rolled his eyes and moved to the side. The attraction between the male lead and female lead was simply too strong. Lost Mimi saw that the gang leader was actually talking to her. She was so excited that her body was trembling. She said, "Gang leader, I want to join the Dragon Gang. I will definitely contribute to the Dragon Gang." "Yes, I can do it too." Icy Lotus also quickly said. Sui Qingfeng nodded. His gaze landed on Lost Mimi. He had never seen such a pure girl in the game. Could it be that she did not see that other players were staring at the staff in her hand? She even put it out so casually. Was she not afraid of others stealing it? "You too can join the Dragon Gang today." Sui Qingfeng waved his hand and let the two rookies join the gang. This made the other players envious. They wanted to join the Dragon Gang. The Dragon Gang had all kinds of requirements. Now, two rookies who just entered the game could join the Dragon Gang so easily. They only hated that they were not girls. Really? Lost Mimi immediately hugged Icy Lotus and happily cheered. Ning Shu was speechless. Was there a need to be so exaggerated? Chapter 368. Just like that, the male and female lead met. One was a godly player, and the other was a noob who didn't know anything. From then on, the godly player brought the noob to various dungeons, and there were pink bubbles all the way. So this was the type that, following the breeze, liked, but wasn't the original owner also ignorant of worldly affairs? Following the breeze didn't like the original owner. Or was it because the original owner was an NPC, and didn't treat the other party as a person, let alone like the original owner? People had different lives. This was a troublesome matter, so there was no need to think about it. This kind of "you love me, I love him" thing was the most troublesome. Ning Shu just watched, following the breeze, and the noob talk. Following the breeze, kept talking to Lost Mimi, but left Lost Mimi's partner, Icy Clear Lotus, to the side. It looked very awkward. And at this time, Lost Mimi also seemed to have forgotten her partner, and her face was red as she excitedly talked to the godly player. Follow the breeze proposed to help Lost Mimi keep the mage staff. Follow the breeze also had good intentions. After all, if this kind of rookie had anything valuable on him, he would be cheated by other players. Moreover, Follow the Breeze could see that this little rookie was just a piece of blank paper. He was simply an idiot. Lost Mimi very straightforwardly gave the mage staff to Following the Breeze. "You're not afraid that I won't give it to you?" Lost Mimi looked at Following the Breeze with a pair of clear eyes. "Leader won't be like this, I believe in Leader. Besides, giving this to Leader is nothing. You may not know, but this thing is very valuable." Following the Breeze raised his eyebrows at this idiot. Lost Mimi shook her head. Following the Breeze kept the staff. Ning Shu shook his head, and saw that Icy Clear Lotus beside Lost Mimi had a very ugly expression, especially when she saw Lost Mimi straightforwardly give the staff to someone else, and her face flashed with annoyance. First he said that he would give it to her, and now he gave it to someone else in a blink of an eye. Lost Mimi didn't understand the ways of the world, and didn't know how to look at people's faces. Naturally, she didn't know that her partner was in a bad mood. Following this kind of female lead was the easiest way to turn evil and make people vomit blood. This was because she didn't even know that her actions would make others unhappy or bring harm to others. After turning evil and doing something to harm the female lead would innocently and sadly ask, "Why are you doing this to me? Aren't we good friends?" Even if he told her about the harm she had done to herself, the female lead would still look innocent and sad and say, "I didn't know, I didn't want it to be like this." Was simply vomiting blood. Following the breeze, Mimi's face, following the breeze, SSS, following the breezes, S's face, S, following the breeze, S, following the breeze, mimicked breeze speaks have a 8 speak. "Are you afraid to accept my challenge? Following the Dragon Gang's leader shouldn't be a coward. Ning Shu mocked. Many players were excited, looking at Following the Breeze and the female player with the ID "Kneel and worship this queen." The matter between a male player and a female player always had some ambiguous color. They were all guessing what kind of grudge Ning Shu had with Following the Breeze, that he had to pick this time to challenge them. It must be known that the Following the Dragon Gang could be said to be the center of attention, and now that they were challenged, they were slapped in the face. Ning Shu wanted Following the Breeze's reputation to hit rock bottom, so that he wouldn't be able to use the ID Following the Breeze to mingle in this game. When the Following the Dragon Gang saw Ning Shu's challenge, each and every one of their faces turned black. A chrysanthemum facing south stood out, and Ning Shu said, "Your level isn't high, so you don't have the qualifications to challenge our leader. How about I fight with you?" Ning Shu coldly said, "I'm not going to fight with you, I want to fight with Following the Breeze." Following the Breeze felt that this female player was really annoying. Following the Breeze was sure that he didn't hurt any girls at all, but this female player used the name of standing up for her sisters to go against him everywhere. Wasn't it just to attract his attention? It was simply disgusting. Ning Shu saw that Following the Breeze was ignoring him, and with a high and mighty appearance, it was clear that he wouldn't accept his challenge. Ning Shu insisted on fighting with Following the Breeze, otherwise what was the use of her coming here today? Ning Shu directly asked the game's main system to fight with Following the Breeze. World News: Kneel and worship this queen, challenges Following the Breeze. Does Following the Breeze accept? Now all the players in the game knew that Ning Shu wanted to challenge Following the Breeze. Following the Breeze was the first great god to establish a guild, and now he was being challenged by an unknown player. This kind of challenge to a god, a heroic act of sending oneself to death, simply made people give a thumbs up. World News: Kneel and worship this queen, challenges Following the Breeze, does Following the Breeze accept? Following the Breeze's face was black, and the entire Following the Dragon gang's players looked at him with unkind eyes. What kind of deep hatred was this, that he had to choose to challenge him when he was establishing a guild, and purposely lower the Following the Dragon gang's honor points? Honor points were very important, and if the guild's honor points didn't reach the standard, the entire guild would be disbanded. Ning Shu pulled out his broadsword, pointed at Following the Breeze and shouted, "Guild leader Following the Breeze, do you want to accept my challenge?" Lost Mimi obviously couldn't understand why she would pull out her sword and point it at him, and hurriedly ran in front of Ning Shu and said, "Sister, don't fight, okay?" Ning Shu turned his head towards Lost Mimi and said, "Sister is very busy, go play at the side." Lost Mimi, it was still Ice Lotus who pulled Lost Mimi to the side, and Lost Mimi even said, "Why do they want to fight? Why does she want to challenge our guild leader? This is simply too much, there are so many people watching." Ning Shu ignored Lost Mimi and impatiently said to Following Cool Breeze, "Following Cool Breeze, are you a man or not? Can't you be a bit more straightforward with your nagging?" Following the Breeze stood up, and coldly said, "As you wish." Just as Following the Breeze's voice fell, a dual stage appeared below Ning Shu and Following the Breeze's feet. World News: Following the Cool Breeze accepts kneel and worship this palace duel. Following the Breeze said in disgust, "How long are you going to go against me? I said before, this method of yours will only cause me to be disgusted. I don't know if you know me outside the game, but use this method in the game." Ning Shu only said one sentence: "The enmity of losing a level is absolutely irreconcilable." If he didn't make Following the Breeze lose a level today, Ning Shu would crawl back today. Perhaps due to the demeanor of an expert, Following the Breeze didn't make the first move. Ning Shu naturally didn't hold back, and took out his broadsword and chopped towards Following the Breeze. Looking at the opponent's attack, Following the Breeze's eyes flashed with disdain. Such a weak attack actually wanted to challenge him, he was simply overestimating himself. A sharp light flashed in Following the Breeze's eyes, and he met Ning Shu's attack head-on. Chapter 369. Following Cool Breeze was very annoyed with this strange woman. The first thing she said was that he had cheated the woman's feelings. Following Cool Breeze even felt that this woman could not love him in the real world, and was only going against him in this game. Today was supposed to be the day of the establishment of the sect. The other party's provocative behavior was simply stepping on the dignity of the Dragon Follower gang. It was also an insult to him as the gang leader. If he did not make this kneel and worship this queen unable to jump around today, in the future, other people would think that the Dragon Follower gang could be casually stepped on. Ning Shu wanted to make Following Cool Breeze lose his reputation, and Following Cool Breeze wanted to use Ning Shu to establish his prestige, killing the chicken to warn the monkey. Following Cool Breeze had already decided that this time he would not kill the opponent by 5 levels, but directly kill her back to the novice village, so that she could not jump around in front of him. It would be best if she could not stay in the game anymore. Following Cool Breeze's eyes flashed a ray of light, and his attacks became even more ferocious. Ning Shu was also not to be outdone. He followed Cool Breeze and resisted. Only after resisting like this did he feel that Following Cool Breeze's strength was strong. Ning Shu fiercely counterattacked. He did not care about losing levels at all. As long as he could make the opponent lose levels, he was willing to make any sacrifices. The surrounding players looked at these two ferocious appearances, as if they had a deep hatred. They looked at each other in dismay and their blood boiled. A chrysanthemum faces south, boss, looks like you can't easily defeat, kneel and worship this queen. Yurong big breasts tightly frowned, this woman is really fierce. She is completely fighting without any regard for her life. Instead, it is making boss's hands and feet tied. To establish our prestige, we need to one-shot her to establish our prestige. Wind blows my balls cold, and monsters are strong you go first, both felt that something was wrong. Boss's strength is definitely stronger than kneel and worship this queen, but one shot is a bit unrealistic. Io, boss has been killed by kneel and worship this queen and lost a level. A chrysanthemum faces south, slapped his thigh and said, but kneel and worship this queen has already been killed by boss and lost 3 levels. So what if he was level 3? Everyone could only watch as the dragon follower gang's leader was killed and his level dropped. That was enough. On the other hand, Ning Shu, who was fighting with, following the breeze, felt pain all over her body. Following the breeze was really strong, but she wasn't someone to be trifled with. She had already said that if she didn't kill, following the breeze, today, she would crawl back. How could 1 level be enough? Ning Shu equipped himself with all of his equipment. On the other side, following the breeze's face darkened. He pursed his lips and looked at Ning Shu with loathing. The long sword in his hand flashed with a brilliant light. Your strength is not bad, but if you think that you can rely on these equipment to make up for the level difference, you're thinking too much. Following Cool Breeze's entire body was also equipped with equipment. Every piece of equipment on his body was a top-notch divine artifact. The surrounding players were drooling at the sight of Yi Shiwen's gorgeous godly equipment. Their eyes were red with jealousy. These were all things that could only be bought with a ticket. Being able to have 1 divine artifact was already pretty good, but Yi Shiwen's entire body was full of them. Ning Shu saw that, following the breeze, was fully equipped. Instead of getting angry, she laughed and said, you being so serious means that you are afraid of me. You're even wearing equipment on your body. Very good, very good. When Ning Shu said this, the surrounding people's gazes became a bit subtle. Originally, following the breeze, S level was higher than Ning Shu's. Now that he was using a divine artifact, there was a bit of an unfair advantage. Adding on the fact that Ning Shu was a female player, following the breeze, S actions seemed to be even more of a bully. Following the breeze, S face darkened. A few of his companions, the core members of the dragon follower gang, all had a look of displeasure on their faces. They looked at Ning Shu with unkind eyes. The opponent's method of not leaving any leeway made him an enemy. A chrysanthemum blossoms to the south, a burly man, rubbed his head and viciously said, in the future, every time I see, kneel to me, I will kill her once and make her stay in the beginner village for the rest of her life. He really thought that they were pushovers. If he wanted to step on the dragon follower gang to become famous, he would have to see whether or not it would hurt his feet. Monsters are strong you go first, frowned, how did boss provoke such a lunatic? No matter how you look at it, this woman is crazy. A chrysanthemum blossoms to the south, sneered, boss is handsome, he will always attract crazy bees and butterflies. At this time, Lost Mimi came over and asked, a chrysanthemum blossoms to the south, boss will win right? A chrysanthemum blossoms to the south, seeing such a cute girl, rubbed his head and said, don't underestimate boss. How can a great god be defeated so easily? Lost Mimi immediately became happy. Her apple-like face was flushed red, making people feel comfortable just by looking at her. A chrysanthemum blossoms to the south, S eyes revealed a wolf-like green light. She really was a top-grade little beauty. Bing bing, I knew that boss wouldn't lose. Lost Mimi pulled bing 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 and said excitedly. Bing ching bing 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 made a sound and did not say anything. Seeing such a cute girl, a chrysanthemum blossoms to the south, started drooling and stared at Lost Mimi. Lost Mimi, yes, your Mimi is indeed lost. She doesn't even have one. Lost Mimi hurriedly covered her chest with her arms and shouted angrily, you pervert, Mimi means cat. A chrysanthemum blossoms to the south, only laughed ambiguously. Chrysanthemum, that's enough. Stop messing around. Monsters are strong, you go first, glanced at, lost Mimi, frowned and said, boss is fighting up there, and you are teasing girls here. On the battle stage, Ning Shu was unable to take it anymore. She had already lost 10 levels to following cool breeze. Using the method of exchanging life for life, Ning Shu had already killed, following cool breeze, by 5 levels. Following cool breeze would have to work hard to regain 5 levels of experience. Although she had also been killed by following cool breeze, she had already lost 10 levels. Both sides were already angry. Following cool breeze was very ruthless. Ning Shu directly attacked him. She was not afraid at all. At worst, she would just give up on this ID and register a new one. Following cool breeze was willing to give up his great god ID. Moreover, this ID was the boss of a guild. Following cool breeze was unwilling. Ning Shu had a plan in her heart. She did not care about anything else and did not defend anymore. Following cool breeze was shocked by the attack on Ning Shu. The opponent did not care about anything else and only attacked him. Even if the opponent's level was dropping rapidly, he was still attacked. Ning Shu's level was dropping rapidly, but, following cool breeze, was directly killed by Ning Shu and lost 10 levels. 10 levels. Following cool breeze was so angry that he wanted to die. At the same time, he was also terrified. The opponent's attitude made him very scared. He even wondered if he had really hurt the girl's feelings. Following cool breeze used a big move and directly cleared Ning Shu's level to 0. Then, Ning Shu was forced to return to the beginner village. Change your ID and start over. Following cool breeze, just you wait. World News, following cool breeze, challenge victory. World News, following cool breeze, challenge victory. World News, following cool breeze, challenge victory. This news was broadcasted 3 times in a row, and even the sound of fireworks rang out. It seemed very jubilant. Chapter 370. Following the cool breeze won, but his heart was not happy at all. Instead, it was filled with irritation that was hard to get rid of, making following the cool breeze's face very ugly. To actually encounter a challenge when establishing a sect, and the leader was even killed and lost 10 levels, it was not easy to reach level 10. Thus, following the cool breeze did not establish his power very smoothly. The dragon following gang members all had black faces, especially, following the cool breeze's few companions, who were all frowning. Following the breeze jumped off the stage. Don't wear underwear, cold balls, asked boss, I'm afraid that this woman is really here to take revenge on you. Looking at her ferocious appearance, did you really do something to make her hate you? Following the cool breeze's mood was very bad, when he heard his own members questioning him. His tone was very bad. What do you mean I really did something? I didn't do anything at all, I just met a crazy person. Balls don't wear underpants, pursed his lips and did not say anything. The others saw that there was going to be hostility between the two, so they quickly mediated. Following the cool breeze turned around and left. Lost Mimi did not care about Clear Ice Lotus beside her and quickly followed, following the cool breeze. Following the cool breeze glanced at her from the corner of his eyes and coldly said, What are you following me for? Lost Mimi said very sincerely, You're so strong, you directly killed that female player. You really think I'm strong? Following the cool breeze sneered and said. Seeing this girl's face full of reverence, he felt a lot better in his heart. Lost Mimi said as if it was a matter of course, You have always been strong, really. Ning Shu was forced to return to the novice village. She was now a little novice. If she wanted to train this account back, she would need more time than a new account. Ning Shu immediately cancelled this ID and registered a new one called "This Queen is Here Again." However, this ID also chose the mage class. Then, Ning Shu began his days of learning code while grinding dungeons. Ning Shu's coding skills were now a little better than before. Sometimes, when he went to dungeon, he could even change the boss coding, making it much easier to kill bosses. However, Ning Shu encountered a problem when she went out to grind bosses. Many players attacked her the moment they saw her. This made Ning Shu speechless. For example, now that she had just finished killing the boss, a male player with the ID "Let the Lord Be Enlightened" stopped Ning Shu and said, "You are, kneel and worship this queen." Ning Shu asked curiously, "Who is kneel and worship this queen? I don't know her." Let the Lord Be Enlightened felt that his intelligence had been insulted and said, "The Dragon Gang has issued a bounty, as long as I can kill you, I can get the equipment. If you let me kill you, you can leave. I know you are, kneel and worship this queen, your new ID is, this queen is back, and you are also a martial master. Don't joke around, you are so open, who doesn't know? Stand there and let me kill you, this way everyone can report back." Ning Shu was speechless. She didn't think that, Following the Wind, would have this move, a bounty. He really didn't even want his face anymore. Ning Shu was someone who was about to level up. She directly killed "Let the Lord Be Enlightened." When she met players who wanted to get rich, Ning Shu directly killed them and lowered their level. After a long time, some low-level players didn't come to find trouble with Ning Shu, but it was the high-level players that came to find trouble with Ning Shu. Ning Shu didn't think that the Dragon Gang would be so willing. The equipment that could move high-level players should be something good, or else these high-level players wouldn't be so persistent in finding trouble with her. Towards these people, Ning Shu would definitely not be merciful. Even if she had to risk her life, she would teach these people a lesson, or else they would always come to find trouble with her. She didn't have that much free time. Every time the players that came to find Ning Shu, they would all be killed by Ning Shu until their level dropped, and Ning Shu also obtained the title of Killing Level Demon King. Ning Shu didn't want to find trouble with Following the Wind for the time being, but she didn't expect to meet him in an intermediate dungeon. In a short period of time, Following the Wind's level went back, and now, Following the Wind was bringing Lost Mimi and Icy Lotus, these two rookies, to clear dungeons. Along the way, Following the Wind was arguing with Lost Mimi, mainly because Following the Wind liked to tease Lost Mimi too much. Following the Wind felt that this little girl was too gullible, too pure, and he couldn't help but want to tease her. For example, if he told her that there was a herb in front of her, she would immediately run over, but if she didn't see the herb, she would immediately pull a long face and accuse him of lying. But she didn't learn from her mistakes, and was always tricked by him. And Icy Lotus, at the side, was a bit embarrassed. Following behind the two of them, she couldn't say anything, only looking at the figures of the two people in front of her. Her eyes were filled with hidden bitterness. Just like this, the two teams met, and Ning Shu saw Following the Wind, smiled and said, "Yo, your level went back again, as expected of a great god." Following the Wind saw the smile on her face, and a wave of disgust welled up in his heart. Before she looked at him as if he was her enemy, and now she was smiling. She was simply crazy. "Even if you changed your account, you are still a weakling," Following the Wind said coldly. Ning Shu smiled and said, "Is that so? Sooner or later, I will kill you back to the beginner village. Who knows who will be the one returning to the beginner village?" Following the Wind said coldly. Following the Wind narrowed his eyes, seeing that the other's level wasn't very high. He sneered, "Now I will let you return to the beginner village. Once you reach the beginner village, I will kill you back to the beginner village." Ning Shu rubbed his chin and nodded. "This is really a good idea. In the future, I will kill you back to the beginner village again and again." Following the Wind's eyes became fierce, and he wanted to make a move. Ning Shu wasn't afraid of Following the Wind at all. It was a good opportunity to test out his own code. Lost Mimi, blocked, Following the Wind, in front of, Following the Wind, Ning Shu asked, Sister, why do you always want to fight with our gang leader? If you have something to say it properly. Ning Shu looked at the naive and cute, Lost Mimi. Why is she protecting, Following the Wind? Ning Shu suddenly said, because, Following the Wind, deceived my sister's feelings, I came to find him for revenge. Lost Mimi was stunned, deceived feelings. Following the Wind's face darkened, he pushed, Lost Mimi, behind him, looked at Ning Shu and said coldly, you are spreading rumors, I didn't deceive a girl's feelings at all. Following the Wind directly pulled out his sword and chopped at Ning Shu's head. Ning Shu dodged, Following the Wind's attack, and coldly said, you can't win in words, so you attack, aren't you just angry out of humiliation? Lost Mimi bit her lips and looked at Ning Shu, and then looked at, Following the Wind. Following the Wind felt that, Lost Mimi, this girl, was quite interesting, and didn't want her to misunderstand, so immediately Ning Shu coldly scolded, shut up. Chapter 371. Following the Cool Breeze saw that Ning Shu always put the title of a heartless man on his head, especially in front of Lost Mimi, this little girl, and his heart immediately became angry. Fuck, he really wanted to kill this crazy woman, it was simply too bad. You want me to shut up, so I'll shut up, why would I listen to your words? Ning Shu sneered. Come and hit me, even if you kill me, I'll still say it. Lost Mimi pouted her cherry red lips and snorted, then turned her head and did not look at, Following the Cool Breeze. Following the Cool Breeze took a deep breath, thinking about what sins he had committed in his previous life to meet such a crazy person in this life, and it was even a female crazy person, who completely relied on her brain to imagine things. Following the Cool Breeze saw that the little girl was angry, and looked at Ning Shu with an even colder gaze. Holding a sharp sword in his hand, he released a big move towards Ning Shu, really wanting to beat Ning Shu into ashes. Ning Shu very straightforwardly laughed and directly jumped away, then with a point of his finger, the grass under, Following the Cool Breeze's feet instantly grew into vines, entangling, Following the Cool Breeze's feet. Following the Cool Breeze was entangled by the vines and could not break free, so he directly used his sword to cut off the vines, but as soon as he cut off the vines, new vines immediately grew out to entangle him. Following the Cool Breeze flipped in the air, but as soon as he touched the ground, vines would immediately grow out from his feet, making, Following the Cool Breeze, very annoyed. Ning Shu bared his teeth and said to, Following the Cool Breeze, this is my pet, you'll be firmly entangled by it. This 1,000-mile vines code had been modified by her, making it abnormally strong, and the ability to entangle was infinitely expanded, it was simply awesome. Following the Cool Breeze was finally entangled by the vines, his hands and feet were entangled, and he did not have the slightest ability to resist. Ning Shu cracked his fingers, held the big sword in his hand, and walked step by step towards, Following the Cool Breeze. Slash by slash, he slowly cut down, Following the Cool Breeze's level. Lost Mimi saw that, Following the Cool Breeze was entangled and could not break free from the vines, so she anxiously said to, Icy Lotus, quickly save the guild leader. Icy Lotus's face flashed a gloomy color, she shook her head and said, I can't beat her at all, what's the use of me going over this? Lost Mimi was so anxious that her eyes turned red. What should I do? What should I do? Lost Mimi saw the female player with the ID, this palace is here again, approach the guild master who had no power to resist like a demon. She took a deep breath and wanted to rush over to save, Following the Breeze. There was no way to see, Following Cool Breeze, being bullied like this. This palace is coming again was really too unreasonable. Clear Lotus saw that, Lost Mimi was about to righteously rush over, so she quickly pulled her back and said, What are you doing? What's the use of you going over? Our levels aren't high to begin with. What if we annoy her and she kills us and drops our levels? But I can't just stand by and watch the gang leader become like this. Lost Mimi saw, following the breeze, continuously cutting down the vines. The sword in his hand emitted a roaring fire dragon, but these vines seemed to be endless. After being cut down, they grew back again. I've already informed the rest of the gang. They're already on their way here. We're just waiting for them to arrive. But Lost Mimi kept staring at, blown by the breeze. That's enough. Even if you rush up, you won't be able to help Sect Master. Icy Lotus sounded impatient, but Lost Mimi didn't notice it. She apologized to Icy Lotus, I'm sorry. Lost Mimi said as she rushed in front of Ning Shu. She opened her arms to block Ning Shu, not letting Ning Shu go with the wind. Ning Shu was speechless. Seeing Lost Mimi standing in front of him with a strong and resolute face, Ning Shu was suddenly speechless. He didn't know what to say at all. He felt that he was really a bad guy. Oh, he. When Following the Breeze saw Lost Mimi's actions, his heart was unspeakably complicated. This girl was really an idiot. She wouldn't really be killed. This was just a game. Looking at such a pure and serious girl, something took root and sprouted in, blown by the wind's heart, breaking open his heart. Little idiot, go to the side. There's nothing for you to do here. Following the Breeze shouted at Lost Mimi. Her level was very low, and she was also a medicine master who didn't have any battle experience. What was the use of her blocking in front? The most important thing was that in the holographic game, one could feel pain. If this queen came back and made a move on Lost Mimi would feel a lot of pain. The pain was real. I won't let her hurt you. Lost Mimi turned her head and shouted at Following the Breeze. Ning Shu was speechless. Now she was the bad guy who broke up the Mandarin ducks. Oh, he, sister, Following the Breeze is not the kind of person who deceives other people's feelings. There must be some misunderstanding between the two of you. You can talk it out. Attacking as soon as you meet is not a solution. Sister, can you let go of gang leader? Lost Mimi, Ning Shu explained. Ning Shu was speechless. The female lead was so kind. What should she do? No matter what she did, she felt that she was a bad guy. What should she do? Ning Shu directly let a vine drag Lost Mimi away. He didn't kill her and drop her level. Lost Mimi, who was being dragged away by the vines, was so scared that her face turned pale and she screamed. When Following the Breeze saw this situation, he did not care about the vines around him and cut off the vines that were wrapped around Lost Mimi's ankle. But Following the Breeze himself was completely entangled by the vines. His 4 limbs were entangled. Under the burden of Lost Mimi, Following the Breeze completely lost his fighting strength. Go to the side. Following the Breeze shouted at Lost Mimi. His face was a bit ferocious. Lost Mimi immediately started crying. She felt very wronged in her heart. She was trying to save him, yet the clan leader was still so fierce to her. However, when she saw that Following Cool Breeze was being controlled, Lost Mimi felt a dull pain in her heart. She simply did not know why. She kept feeling very uncomfortable. She even resented Ning Shu. Ning Shu shouted, "You vicious woman." "I'm vicious, I'm proud." Ning Shu glanced at Lost Mimi and directly went in front of Following the Breeze. He laughed coldly. "Let's see who will go to the novice village first." Ning Shu took the big knife and slashed at Following the Breeze. Following the Breeze was in so much pain that his face turned pale. In a short while, Following the Breeze was killed by Ning Shu and dropped 2 levels. Ning Shu was very happy to slash people. Following the Breeze looked at Ning Shu with even more resentment and loathing. Chapter 372. following the cool breeze, was entangled by the vines and could not move. He was like a fish on a chopping board, being slashed by the woman in front of him. His level dropped rapidly like a broken elevator, and the pain of being slashed by the knife was the most infuriating. Following the cool breeze, looked at Ning Shu with bloodshot eyes. Ning Shu tilted his head and looked at, following the cool breeze, and said, "You don't like knives?" Ning Shu put away the knife and took out a whip. The pitch-black whip, with a flick of it, there was an explosive sound in the air. Following the cool breeze, S pupils trembled, clearly stunned. He finally confirmed that he had really met a crazy person. Ning Shu swung her whip, and with a crackling sound, it landed on Following the Breeze's body. Following the Breeze's level dropped rapidly, and the whip landed on Following the Breeze's body, causing it to feel a burning pain. The two little girls next to him were stunned. Lost Mimi covered her mouth and cried. The last Lost Mimi could not take it anymore. Ning Shu roared, "You're so cruel, how can you be like this?" Ning Shu smiled, "There's nothing I can't do." If she and Following the Cool Breeze were to exchange places, and Following the Cool Breeze treated her like this, Lost Mimi would probably think that the clan leader was mighty and domineering. The double standard was too serious. Just as Following the Cool Breeze was about to be killed back to the beginner village, Following the Cool Breeze's few companions finally arrived. Lost Mimi saw that her savior had finally arrived, and cried towards the few people, "Hurry and save the clan leader is being tortured by that woman, she's so scary." When the few people saw Following the Cool Breeze's level, they were simply stunned. They quickly destroyed the vines on Following the Cool Breeze's body. Ning Shu blew on his whip and lashed out at Following the Cool Breeze, making the few people's faces turn black and their faces tremble. The burly man, a chrysanthemum blossoms to the south, looked at Ning Shu and said darkly, "Don't go too far." The few of them stared at Ning Shu with unfriendly eyes. Ning Shu sneered, "You've gone too far. Your dragon gang put out a bounty for other players to kill me. You've gone too far." The few of them worked together to bring Follow the Breeze down. Follow the Breeze's expression was indifferent as he pointed at Ning Shu and said, "I will make you pay the price. You can't stay in this game anymore." Ning Shu patted her chest and said, "I'm so scared. You should raise your novice level first before we talk." Ning Shu pointed his whip at Following the Breeze, and said, "That's what I said. I'll make sure you can't stay in this game any longer." Following the Breeze's expression was extremely ugly. He stared at Ning Shu and then looked away. "You've succeeded in pissing me off." Follow the Breeze turned around and left. The other people frowned and glanced at Ning Shu. In the end, they all followed Follow the Breeze. A chrysanthemum blossoms to the south, Ning Shu grinned, revealing his white teeth. He made a throat-slitting gesture towards Ning Shu, "No matter who you are, you're really out of luck. If we get serious, you might not be able to bear the consequences." Ning Shu said indifferently, "There's nothing that I can't bear." Following the Breeze saw that Lost Mimi was in a daze and his voice was filled with warmth. "Girl, let's go. What are you still standing there for?" Previously, Lost Mimi's actions made Following the Breeze feel very touched. There was a girl who was willing to stand up for him when he was in danger. Although her strength was very weak, it still made Following the Breeze feel warm in his heart. Before, he felt that this girl was stupid. Now, he felt that this girl was really stupid. Stupid to the point that she was cute and made people feel sorry for her. Icy Clear Lotus saw that, with the cool breeze, only called Lost Mimi, and did not pay attention to her at all. She immediately bit her lips and felt indignant in her heart. Why did these people only see Lost Mimi, and were all comforting her? If she did not call people to save Following the Breeze, would Following the Breeze be able to escape from the hands of This Palace is Coming Again? Lost Mimi was so stupid and would only cause trouble. Following the breeze was tied up because Lost Mimi dragged him down. Why did Following the breeze not blame her? People who did the right thing did not have a single word of praise. People who caused trouble without brains could still get other people's attention and praise. Icy Clear Lotus could not understand. Why was this? Why did Following the breeze only place his eyes on this stupid girl? Icy Clear Lotus looked at Lost Mimi, who was crying and laughing at Following the breeze. Following the breeze was even gently wiping away her tears. Annoyance and jealousy rose in her heart. Why did Following the breeze only like Lost Mimi? Why? Ning Shu kept the 1,000-mile vine. He cleared the intermediate level instance dungeon and prepared to return to the city. But on the way back, Ning Shu clearly felt that there was something wrong with the way people looked at him. Among them were quite a few high-level players. Moreover, they were the kind of high-level gods. The way these people looked at him was like he was a piece of high-quality equipment. Ning Shu was very vigilant in his heart, but he was still blocked by a player. Ning Shu looked at this person. He did not recognize him, but his level was very high. He was just a bit lower than Following the breeze, who did not level up. Why are you blocking me? Don't tell me you want to kill me. Ning Shu looked at him. His level was not low, so it would take some effort to get rid of him. This player with the ID Lousy Invincible Handsome looked at Ning Shu without any malice and said, "You can only blame your bad luck. Now that Following the Dragon Gang has increased the rewards, just a full attribute triple cross flat top swallow wing purple gold crown is enough to make people go crazy. There are also a lot of other high-quality equipment." Ning Shu had heard of this equipment. The purple gold crown was the most popular equipment among male players. At the same time, it was also the most expensive equipment. It was simply a tool to show off. If it was converted to RMB, it would be worth at least 10,000 yuan. Ning Shu sneered. Following the breeze was really willing to use a large sum of money to lure players. He made her face enemies from all sides, and in the end, she could only leave the game world. But Following the breeze did not know that she was originally a part of this game. If she could register an infinite number of IDs. Moreover, she could change her appearance and continue to mingle in this game. If she was a real player, he was afraid that she would really be attacked by Following the breeze to the point that she would not dare to enter this game again. Ning Shu felt that Following the breeze in real life should have a rich family, and the people that Following the breeze hung out with should not be bad either. Right now, they were ganging up against her. Following the breeze had been killed by her so many levels. If she lost another 2 levels, she would really have to go back to the novice village to relevel. Right now, she was determined to take revenge on her. Today, there was Lousy Invincible Handsome. Tomorrow, there would be Lousy Invincible Handsome. Players who wanted equipment would all come to find trouble with her. Chapter 373. Towards these people who wanted to use him as a stepping stone to obtain equipment, Ning Shu would not tolerate them. He released the 1,000-mile vine and entangled the players who were blocking him. Invincible Commander, who was entangled by the 1,000-mile vine, struggled violently. Seeing Ning Shu's cold face, he smiled and said, "Beauty, I was just joking. I just wanted to see what it was like to make the Dragon Gang's great god jump up in anger." Ning Shu grinned, "You're too modest. You're also a great god." Ning Shu took a knife and cut down Invincible Commander's level. Everyone was not a good person, so there was no need to talk about mercy. If his strength was too weak, these people would swarm over and treat him as a money tree. They would treat him as a boss that dropped equipment. He was much more pitiful than these people. After cutting down the person's level, Ning Shu very carefully left. Invincible Commander grimaced as he looked at Ning Shu's back. This woman was really too violent. It would be very difficult to get back after being cut down. It seemed like this equipment was not that easy to get. Following the cool breeze made all the players target her. She definitely wanted to get revenge. Because the ID following the cool breeze was a great god account, following the cool breeze could not bear to part with this account. Even if it took a long time to level back, following the cool breeze still wanted to level back. Therefore, Ning Shu was now wasting time with following the cool breeze. Whichever instance following the cool breeze appeared in, Ning Shu would immediately rush over and kill following the cool breeze. As long as he leveled up, he would take advantage of the fact that his level was not high to kill him back to the beginner village. Let him start over from the beginner village. He didn't know if, with the breeze, was really inseparable from Lost Mimi. Lost Mimi was just an alchemist that didn't have any battle power. With the breeze even brought Lost Mimi along to level up. Lost Mimi was very happy. To be able to accompany the clan master back to the peak, this kind of excitement was even happier than leveling up by herself. So when Ning Shu killed following the breeze, Lost Mimi would immediately condemn Ning Shu, saying that Ning Shu was a perverted woman. Ning Shu gladly accepted the title of perverted woman. He didn't even speak to Lost Mimi. This was because she only considered things from her own point of view. She only saw that her favorite, following the breeze, had been killed and his level dropped, but she did not see the trouble that, following the breeze, had brought to her by throwing money. Ning Shu didn't want to argue with her at all because it didn't make sense. Every time, following the breeze, was killed by Ning Shu, he would use a very hateful and disgusted expression to look at Ning Shu. In addition to Lost Mimi's condemning gaze, Ning Shu, who was bathed in the "you are a bad person" gaze, felt very sour. Ning Shu knew that the hatred between following the breeze and himself was irreconcilable, so every time he acted, he was very ruthless. Following the breeze was killed by Ning Shu and sent back to the beginner village twice. Following the breeze also learned to be obedient. Every time he went to the instance dungeon, he would bring a few of his companions to escort him. He could see that this woman was crazy. Ning Shu saw that, following the breeze, had called his people. That serious look made Ning Shu directly laugh. A chrysanthemum blossoms towards the south, touched his head and looked at Ning Shu. As a person, don't go overboard. Don't think that just because you have a high level, we can still kill you. Ning Shu's legs were shaking. Come on, come and kill me. A chrysanthemum blossoms towards the south, sneered, you want me to fuck you, right? A crazy woman like you, even if you lay down and let me fuck you, I wouldn't fuck you. Ning Shu was speechless. Do you think you can fuck me just because you want to? Ning Shu sneered. Following the breeze, companions' levels weren't low, and every one of them was a great god. Following the breeze, level looked very shabby. Your level is really low. Look at your team members, every one of their levels is higher than yours. You still have the nerve to be the leader of the dragon follower gang. If you want some face, hurry up and give up your position. Ning Shu sneered maliciously. Following the breeze, face was a bit ugly. Seeing that his own team members' levels were indeed much higher than his face became even uglier. Following the breeze had a very strong ego. This account should be the highest level out of all of them, but now, too many of them had been killed by this crazy woman. A chrysanthemum blossoms towards the south viciously looked at Ning Shu, you are trying to sow discord between us. Let me tell you, the boss is the boss. No matter what level he is our boss. Yes. The monsters are very strong, you go first, immediately said, and then said to, following the breeze, boss, you will be able to quickly raise your level. You roam Big Milk, what kind of intentions do you have, woman? Why do you always go against us? If you have any grievances, then say it clearly. Why are you using underhanded methods like this? Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. He didn't think that, following the breeze, and his companions would support him so strongly. Supporting him wasn't right, following the breeze was the leader of this team. He reckoned that in reality, following the breeze's family background was definitely better than these people, and they were subconsciously trying to curry favor with following the breeze. However, Ning Shu only cared that he couldn't stay in this game any longer. He also didn't say much to these people. It was obvious that he wanted to fight. Ning Shu directly released his own 1,000-mile vine, entangling these people. A chrysanthemum blossoms towards the south, sneered, "You think that you are the only one with good things." A chrysanthemum blossoms towards the south also had a 1,000-mile vine. Although the vine wasn't as big as Ning Shu's, the 2,000-mile vines were entangled together. They were fighting with each other, and a large area of thorns intertwined with each other. Ning Shu laughed and snapped his fingers. His 1,000-mile vine immediately became bigger. Under everyone's gaze, a chrysanthemum blossoms towards the south,'s vines were all swallowed up by Ning Shu's 1,000-mile vine. A chrysanthemum blossoms towards the south, frowned, the 1,000-mile vine also has this kind of effect. After this period of dungeon clearing, Ning Shu's level was already very high. At the very least, he was around the same level as following the breeze and his other companions. Moreover, he had the 1,000-mile vine with a very strong entanglement ability. Ning Shu immediately let the 1,000-mile vine entangle these people. However, a chrysanthemum blossoms towards the south, and the others weren't just for show. They had a lot of equipment on them, and they were all very strong. The vines couldn't even get close to their bodies. Ning Shu stepped on the vines and held his broadsword to fight with these people. Following the breeze, and Lost Mimi, as well as Icy Lotus, who didn't have much of a sense of existence, watched from the side. Following the breeze, clenched his fists. This kind of feeling of being weak really didn't feel good. Watching others fight so coolly, it made following the breeze's self-esteem shatter into pieces. Seeing his own team members stronger than him, this kind of feeling made him feel very bad. Chapter 374. Because of the existence of the 1,000-mile vine, Ning Shu and the few people were equally matched in the battle. Not only did the few people have to deal with Ning Shu, they also had to be harassed by the 1,000-mile vine. For a moment, both sides were locked in battle. Ning Shu glanced at following the cool breeze, who was being protected by a few people, and hurriedly let the 1,000-mile vine drag following the cool breeze over. Following the cool breeze saw this woman's gaze on him and felt that something was wrong. Then, he saw the overwhelming number of vines rushing towards him. Following the cool breeze reflexively protected Lost Mimi behind him and tightly held the sword in his hand as he chopped at the vines that wanted to entangle him. Following the breeze only protected the Lost Mimi and did not care about Icy Lotus at the side. Icy Lotus was quickly entangled by the vines. Although she did not die, she was still in pain from being strangled by the vines. Icy Clear Lotus blushed as she looked at Lost Mimi, who was behind following the breeze. Seeing following the breeze protecting her so much, her face twisted with jealousy. She also liked Follow the Breeze, but Follow the Breeze only liked Lost Mimi. Why, how was she inferior to that stupid Lost Mimi? Why did these people all like Lost Mimi, saying that she was a person with heavy thoughts and did not like her? Why could Lost Mimi be easily forgiven when she got into trouble? Was it okay because she was stupid? Just because she was a little more meticulous, they said that she was a person with deep thoughts. Based on what? The few people saw that Ning Shu was so sinister. When he was fighting with them, he actually went to sneak attack their boss. Following the cool breeze directly released an incomparably bright ball of light. This ball of light exploded and emitted a strong light, burning the vines. Ning Shu saw that the various attributes of the vines were decreasing and immediately kept the vines. He squinted his eyes and looked at Cool Breeze. This healer actually had such a strong battle strength. When Ning Shu kept the vines, the few people were very concerned about following the cool breeze. Following the cool breeze shook his head, indicating that he was fine. Lost Mimi stood out and said to Ning Shu, "Sister, why do you always want to hurt our leader?" "Because I'm happy," Ning Shu said with a smile. Lost Mimi pouted and said, "I know you're doing this because you like gang leader. You're doing this to attract his attention. You can't get what you want and hate because of love. Don't you want someone to live a better life if you love him?" Ning Shu, haha, who told you that? Ning Shu's Lost Mimi asked. This little girl even knew that she couldn't get what she wanted, and that her love had turned into hate. Lost Mimi betrayed her partner without hesitation. She pointed at Icy Purity and said, "It was Bing Bing who told me. Bing Bing is very smart. She saw through your thoughts long ago." Icy Purity, who was coughing because of the vines, stared dumbfoundedly at her partner. She then looked at Ning Shu, who didn't have any expression on his face. Following the cool breeze, and the others all stared at Icy Purity. Icy Purity's face immediately turned red. She wanted to find a hole to hide in. "Bing Bing, don't you think so? Using the method of hurting others to attract attention. Since you really like him, you should treat him well and not hurt him like this. Bing Bing, this is what you told me." Lost Mimi walked over and grabbed Icy Purity's hand. She said to Icy Purity with a face full of certainty. Ning Shu really wanted to light a candle for this Icy Lotus clean girl. Icy Clear Lotus looked at Lost Mimi's face. At this time, the other party could still smile, and it was this kind of silly smile. Icy Clear Lotus couldn't help but want to slap her in the face. She stole the person she liked, and now she said these kinds of words to such a strong player. Was she looking down on her for not dying fast enough? Ning Shu used a move on Icy Purity, and directly killed her by a level. He coldly said, "Don't use your thoughts to guess at me." Instigating Lost Mimi to hate her was just for following the cool breeze. When Ning Shu made his move, following the cool breeze had already pulled Lost Mimi to the side. Ning Shu's attack wasn't strong and the others could completely block it. But for some reason, they didn't help Icy Purity to block the attack. Icy Purity felt pain all over her body. She knew that the other party was unhappy because of her words and punished her. He warned her not to speak carelessly, otherwise she would be killed and sent back to the beginner village. Icy Purity knew that the difference in strength between her and "this queen is here again" was too big. She didn't dare to show any hostility towards "this queen is here again." But in her heart, she hated Lost Mimi. How could she say what they had said in private? Lost Mimi saw that her good friend was attacked and hurriedly ran over to Icy Purity, and said anxiously, "Icy Purity, are you okay? How can you do this? You were seen through by Icy Purity, so you attacked Icy Purity. How can you be like this? Even if you have great strength in the game, in reality you are still a woman who is not worthy of love." Lost Mimi angrily roared at Ning Shu. She wanted to stand up for her friend. Ning Shu didn't say anything. He didn't even look at Lost Mimi and Icy Purity. He looked at the few men who didn't care about the matter and shrugged his shoulders. "Are we still going to fight? Today we didn't kill, following the cool breeze, and drop his level. Count him lucky. I hope that you guys can protect him at any time in the future." Tisk tsk tsk, following the cool breeze, great God is now a soft-footed shrimp. He is a trash who needs people to protect him wherever he goes. Ning Shu said very viciously. Following the cool breeze tightly clenched his fist. He looked at Ning Shu with eyes full of anger and disgust. He had never seen such a hateful woman before. "You are talking nonsense. Our guild master is not a soft-footed shrimp. You are bullying our guild master just because your level is high. What kind of man are you? Lost Mimi saw that her sweetheart was being insulted and quickly said. Ning Shu looked at her and said, "You talk too much. Why are you jumping up and down? Is it fun?" Looking at her was really annoying. He really wanted to kill her. But looking at Icy Purity's gloomy face and looking at Lost Mimi with eyes full of hatred and jealousy, he didn't make a move. There was a big bad wolf by the little cutie's side. She would always be at a disadvantage. What a good drama of close friends turning against each other. Ning Shu felt that if he was Icy Purity, he would definitely be blackened. She was so righteous in tricking her teammates. Moreover, it would make people feel that she was pure and cute. She would say whatever she wanted to say. Wasn't that pure and cute? I will make you regret it. Following the cool breeze, coldly looked at Ning Shu. His eyes were full of coldness, whether it is in the game or in reality. Chapter 375. This grudge had not only intensified in the game, it had also spread to the real world. Following the breeze had already been completely pissed off by this woman and wanted to use his power in the real world to make this woman pay the price. When Ning Shu heard that Following the Breeze wanted to deal with him in the real world, he only laughed. "If you have the ability, come find me, Following the Breeze." A chrysanthemum blossom southward saw that this woman was still so stubborn and sneered, "You will die very miserably. Provoking the boss, you are really going to be unlucky." Ning Shu raised his eyebrows and said, "Can you take out the name of the great god, Following the Breeze, in the real world and let me see if it can scare me to the ground?" Balls Cold Without Pants said, "Following the Breeze's family is the richest family in Qinghai City. A casual word from them can make it difficult for you to move a single step in the real world." Ning Shu seemed to chuckle and said, "No wonder you all serve Following the Breeze like you serve the Crown Prince. Aren't you just trying to curry favor with him?" Following the Breeze coldly said, "We are childhood friends, so we treat each other as equals." Hearing Following the Breeze say treat each other as equals, the others did not say anything. Ning Shu did not comment. What equal treatment? Don't joke around. Boss, you are a rich family's young master. Lost Mimi curled her lips and did not look very happy. What, I can't be a rich family's young master? Following the Breeze raised his eyebrows and asked with interest. Lost Mimi curled her lips and said, "Rich people are not good people." "How are we not good people?" A chrysanthemum blossom southward touched his head and said unhappily. Lost Mimi stubbornly said, "In any case, we are not good people." Ning Shu. "Just you wait, great god, Following the Breeze. I will kill you every time I see you." Ning Shu said and turned to leave. "Boss, she's too arrogant," a chrysanthemum blossom southward said as he looked at Ning Shu's back. Following the Breeze coldly said, "Tomorrow, I will temporarily not enter the game." When the few of them heard Follow the Breeze say this, they knew what Follow the Breeze meant. It was obvious that he wanted to human search this woman and make This Queen Is Here Again in reality completely kneel down so that she would not be able to strut around in the game. Ning Shu didn't care at all about Cool Breeze checking him. What could she find out? It was just a game's programming code. No one would be able to guess her identity. Go ahead and check. Ning Shu went to clear a few Ultimate Instance dungeons, allowing her experience bar to rise rapidly. Moreover, there were many top-grade equipment, and she also leveled up the 1,000-mile vine. Now that her strength was strong, Ning Shu immediately went to find Following the Breeze. After not seeing him for a while, Following the Breeze also leveled up. This time, when Ning Shu met Following Cool Breeze again, Following Cool Breeze did not bring Lost Mimi with him. She did not know if it was because they quarreled or because he felt that it was too dangerous to bring Lost Mimi with him. When Following the Breeze saw Ning Shu, his face darkened. His expression was very complicated. He spent so much time but he actually couldn't find out who this person was. Really, it was as if this person didn't exist in this world. It was simply inconceivable. Following the breeze, suspected that this woman's family was stronger than his, otherwise how could he not find out? Moreover, following the breeze, couldn't remember when he had cheated a girl's feelings. This woman stared at him without letting go, making following the breeze feel extremely disgusted. Ning Shu looked around and asked, following the breeze, why is there no one protecting you today? You actually dare to come out to clear an instant's dungeon alone? Ning Shu's tone was filled with disdain. Following the breeze, narrowed his eyes and looked at her. He suddenly asked, why do you keep following me like this? I've already said it many times. Ning Shu said indifferently. He pulled out his own knife and prepared to kill, following the breeze. Then, I want to know who you are, and who is the girl that I hurt. Following the breeze stared at Ning Shu and asked. Ning Shu was a little surprised. This was the first time he saw following the breeze speak to him so politely. Moreover, it was using the method of an equal status. In the past, following the breeze would look at him with disdain. What was wrong with him now? Regardless of what was wrong with him, Ning Shu raised his large knife and smashed it towards following the breeze's head. Following the breeze resisted Ning Shu's attack. Although it was strenuous, he still managed to persevere. Following the breeze now only wanted to level by himself. Even if he knew that this crazy woman would come looking for him, following the breeze still did not want to lose face in front of his teammates. He did not even bring lost Mimi. Ning Shu's current level was much higher than following the breeze. He did not even release the 1,000-mile vine before killing following the breeze back to the beginner village. Following the breeze's face was extremely ugly. Ning Shu roared, "Who are you?" Ning Shu did not speak. After killing following the breeze back to the beginner village, Ning Shu felt extremely happy. Finally, he also let following the breeze return to the beginner village. In the following days, every time following the breeze wanted to level, Ning Shu would immediately rush over and kill following the breeze. Once following the breeze leveled up, Ning Shu would go and kill following the breeze. It was like shaving wool. When it grew, he shaved it. Following the breeze was simply going crazy. Being bullied so badly, following the breeze even more did not want his teammates to know. He felt that it was extremely embarrassing. Seeing the opponent become stronger and stronger, following the breeze felt that he could not level up anymore. With such a crazy woman staring at him, no one would be able to stand it. So, following the breeze decided to change accounts. When Ning Shu was learning the code, he heard the world news. A chrysanthemum blossoms to the south took over as the leader of the dragon gang. A chrysanthemum blossoms to the south became the leader of the dragon gang. Then what about following the breeze? Could it be that he left the gaming world? But the system did not notify him that the quest was completed. That meant that following the breeze had not left yet. The most likely thing was to change accounts and start over. Ning Shu hacked into the game's main system to check the newly registered accounts. He found a new account that looked a bit like following the breeze. The new account's ID was Lost Tibetan Mastiff. Lost Tibetan Mastiff. There was a Lost Mimi, and then there was a Lost Tibetan Mastiff. Could it be a couple account? Didn't following the breeze take the fresh and high-end route? How come there was such a big change in style? Ning Shu felt that he needed to test whether or not this Lost Tibetan Mastiff was following the breeze. Ning Shu found the Lost Tibetan Mastiff that was farming experience. His face was a bit similar to following the breeze, but it didn't seem like it. It was probably set, and the similarity with the original was estimated to be only 10%. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.